Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Ooh. I just hit the wrong button. All right, good evening, everyone. And welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. So Rumble has a new feature for Rumble Studio. They wanted me to test it out. I'm giving it a shot today. We're seeing how it works out. Seen a couple of complaints from the chat. Perhaps not as expected, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what isn't what we would expect, so then I can report back to them what maybe needs to be adjusted. All right, so my good friend Kim Bright is going to be joining us in the first portion of the show. We're going to be diving into some subjects related to MAHA, and then we're going to be getting into our State of the Union preview. As far as I am concerned, the State of the Union is pretty bright. So I guess it's totally appropriate. Kim Bright is going to be here with us. All right, you're saying the volume is very low. Is it my volume or is it the music volume? Because I can turn up the music volume and I can turn up my volume as well. But I need to know exactly what it is you guys are hearing. Either way, you guys can always turn up the volume on your end. See, I got plenty of people saying the volume is fine. All right. Either way, we got a lot to discuss today. So you're saying my volume is low, but the music is fine. Volume is fine for me. YMCA was tinny. I think that YMCA was tinny because of the way that I had to play it. All right, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn because we're about to get into it right about now. All right, my friends, welcome back. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Let me get a couple of things on screen here. Yes, the corruption detector. We got to get the Ko-Fi alerts, the Ko-Fi GIF, the donation button, the follow, and that should be good. That should be good right there. All right, so the opening volume was low. I think that was probably due to the actual volume that I had it set at on my soundboard. I turned that up towards the end. Most people are saying it's fine. Let me just tell you that if it seems low on your end, turn up the volume on your end, because I have to make a number of sacrifices in order to make it so that everybody is basically as happy as they can possibly be. All right, so we do have a lot to discuss today, guys. I want to open up, first of all, with this story right here, and actually that is not it. Here, let me fix the way my screen looks, because this is not the way it's supposed to look. Okay, hold on just a second. So this is going to be window capture, and it will be... there we go. Okay, that's better. That is much, much better. That's what I wanted people to see. Okay. And boom. Okay, cool. All right, so as I was saying, my good friend Kim Bright is going to be with us today. We're going to be talking about some things related to making America healthy again, making you guys healthy again. But specifically, first of all, we're going to start off with a discussion on 6G. You know, it seems like just a couple of years ago my desktop is a mess. I will be the first to tell you that my desktop is a mess. It was just a couple of years ago. Everybody was worried about 5G. Everybody was talking about 5G. Of course, technologists were telling us that 5G was going to herald in this new era of cellular communication and data. But now 6G is right around the corner, and 6G is probably this time something that isn't just going to change our lives, but many people believe it will actually threaten our existence. So let me explain to you a little bit about how this is different from either 4G or 5G. So from the name, you can probably tell that 6G is the sixth generation of cellular network technology. This is going to be what replaces 5G, and it's going to offer vastly improved speeds in terms of your data, the ultra-low latency. When you say something, somebody else on the other end is going to hear it. When you request a website or you click on a link, it's going to pop up much, much quicker. But it's also going to offer intelligent connectivity, and this is really important because of the advent of artificial intelligence. It's going to operate on a different radio frequency as well, much higher radio frequencies, using highly focused laser-like beams to direct energy more efficiently. Now, 6G is also going to be deeply embedded with artificial intelligence and machine learning. They're going to put that right into the network architecture, which is going to kind of scarily enable for self-optimization. These things are going to be working on the fly to essentially determine what they need to do. These are going to be autonomous networks that are going to be making real-time decisions without any type of human intervention. So the question also is, how does 6G work? Well, one of the defining technical aspects of 6G is that it's going to be using the new spectrum of bands. So 5G introduced pretty groundbreaking enhancements over 4G, but 6G is going to push these boundaries a lot further than anything we've seen so far. 5G operates mainly in like the sub 6 gigahertz bandwidth. It's millimeter wave frequencies, but 6G is going to extend into the terahertz spectrum. That's approximately 100 times faster than 5G and what we're using right now. So higher frequencies are going to be traveling shorter distances, and they're going to get blocked a lot easier. So 6G networks are going to be forced to rely on powerful new technologies, which will then control the signal and be able to amplify it from point to point. They're going to use reconfigurable intelligent surfaces. That means like walls and objects that can actively redirect wireless waves, along with, of course, massive grids of synchronized antennas that will also be beaming signals straight at you wherever you are with your phone, your computer, whatever it might be, with kind of scary precision. So, in other words, instead of signals just kind of floating through the air the way that they do right now with 3, 4, and 5G, 6G is going to be able to steer and intensify those signals wherever it wants, wherever perhaps the AI or these autonomous networks decide that they need to go. And it's going to create a system where coverage isn't maybe widespread at the moment. And I think it's probably going to be pushed based upon that need. It'll actively be shaped around whatever the network decides to target with the signal and wherever it needs to go. So in terms of the AI, that artificial intelligence is going to be natively adapted and built in with 6G from the very beginning, which basically makes artificial intelligence a core component embedded at every network layer. And it's not going to be something that's going to be optional. So the rise of 6G plans to unleash a wave of hyper-connected systems that push every industry into a level of automation and oversight that we've never seen before. Maybe even having the possibility to do away with the need for humans to oversee it at all. These are going to be some pretty out there sci-fi capabilities that might unleash changes so sudden and so massive that the entirety of a variety of different industries might collapse overnight. That could leave society scrambling to survive in a world shaped by innovations that use the guise of progress as a Trojan horse. And, you know, I mean, I think about some of the things I've seen related to artificial intelligence in recent weeks. There is a new technology called Claudebot that recently came out. It's essentially a model that you can deploy on your own system, and then you can use it to give access to all sorts of things in your life. Now, a lot of people thought that sounded pretty cool at the very beginning, but there were also some people who ran into some major problems. Like these AIs started dumping their personal information online, or they just, without any sort of prompting, went into people's inboxes and started mass deleting emails that these individuals definitely wanted to hold on to. Or it might gain access to your bank account and then start buying up shares of crypto or shares of stocks or something like that. Maybe putting shorts or placing bets on things that you never intended it to do. But as a result of how deeply this AI can be embedded into so many different industries, there were blog posts that were written about new capabilities that people were discovering for this thing. And like overnight, it wiped out margins from certain companies like IBM. IBM lost a tremendous amount of value in like a 12-hour time span from where this blog post was posted. It was all about COBOL. COBOL is an ancient language, a computer programming language that IBM basically controls. They have the market cornered on it. But Claude can now actively interpret and actually write COBOL better than the people that work at IBM. And so the possibilities of that wiped out all of this value from IBM. So this is getting to the point where it's now going to be really, really disruptive. So I don't know when 6G is going to launch. As far as I know, it's currently just in the research and development phase, but they've been conducting technology trials since around 2020. And there's a lot of people who also just recently switched to 5G. So I don't know how quickly they're going to try to make us swap over to it. But a lot of industry experts and leaders in these projects suggest that commercial 6G networks are going to be ready for full-scale launch probably around something like 2030. But we're already being exposed to this same type of dangerous technology because they're deploying prototypes and they're developing the frequency channels right now. In order to do tests, they've got to put it out there in the wild, and they've got to see how it behaves when it's bouncing off all of these surfaces. The dangers that may exist as a result of this, some of them I've already pointed to: cybersecurity issues, the abuse of this technology by government. Obviously, a lot of different health risks, and even the World Health Organization, that many people may not have any faith in, they're not actually even thinking about the dangers in this. That's almost like a counter signal to me. If the World Health Organization doesn't seem to be worried about a health thing that I'm concerned about, I think, man, that means I've got to look at this even more with more intention. And you got to also imagine with how much money is going to be invested in these networks, they would have some sort of probability of perhaps covering this up to ensure that it gets out there and people are able to use it. All right, now I'm waiting for Kim to join us real quickly, and I don't see. Oh, I do see her. She has just joined the call, so let me go ahead and bring Kim in, and we will check in with her. And Kim, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, we need to get your camera turned on, and there it is.
Hey, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent.
Hey, Zach.
So good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us, as always. Really appreciate you being here. How have you been lately?
Well, with all the craziness going on in the world, I have to say I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's about the best you can hope for. All right. So I was just talking to the audience about this article on 6G networks and the sort of coming AI Skynet possibilities that might exist from it. So I think immediately the thing that comes to mind anytime you have the mass adoption of a technology, and certainly with artificial intelligence being involved and all of the various ways that this could be abused, I've got to wonder about data privacy. You know, I mean, oh, Kim has an echo. Okay, so let me fix that for her. Okay, so Lisa, let me know if Kim has an echo. I think that it should be fixed now. All right, so what does this ultimately mean for data privacy? People are going to be using this technology to communicate. It's going to be all around us, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen.
Well, I mean, with the expansion of the internet and the increase in connected devices, our personal and enterprise data is going to be more exposed than ever, Zach. We've already seen such a dramatic loss of privacy in the past few decades. I mean, just imagine how little we'll have in the future, if any.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that is the number one concern right there. I think everybody is worried about the possibilities of the overreach that this could give to us. With as much as we've already sacrificed, this could quite literally lead to the battlefield of nation-state cyber warfare. I mean, you've got to imagine that governments are going to be looking at how to use this most effectively to meet their own needs. And obviously, if they're going to be deploying it among the general population, there's a lot of problems that might arise.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be connecting billions of devices worldwide and blurring the line between, digital attacks and real world consequences. And with the ultra fast networks and that AI driven automation and the vulnerable global supply chains, the cyber conflict will shift from hacking computers to the ability to disrupt computers or even control entire societies. And let's think about the governments. They could potentially abuse 6G technology for expanded surveillance and control and monitoring citizens in real time, tracking our movements, mapping our personal behavior at a much deeper level than today. And just imagine what this could mean for our national security, campaign interference, military operations, etc. And 6G is fundamentally changing the boundaries between private life, public space, and digital surveillance.
So pretty soon we're essentially going to be plugged in to everything. I mean, this makes me think of the Internet of Everything, right? I mean, you mentioned campaign interference. I think a lot of the audience is hyper-focused on the idea of the insecurity of our election equipment. There's already ways for communications to be made with these things. And whether it's at the ballot box or actively spying on a political campaign, getting an inside tactic that way, certainly that's going to be a way that this could be used. But with the Internet of Everything and the control of a person's thoughts, feelings, movements, and emotions, this is certainly something that could be used, especially if it's going to be connected to each and every one of our phones.
Yeah, I mean, this is an always sensing network that we're going to be, in the midst of, and it's terrifying. I mean, think about that. Every move that we make is monitored, documented, analyzed, and not just what we're doing, but what the system thinks that we're likely to do next. It's going to read our minds. I mean, and at that level of tracking, if that's not scary enough for everyone, here's the real question to think about. What could living inside a nonstop sensing network mean for our physical health? I mean, these concerns are primarily focused on the terahertz frequencies it will use, which are actively studied for their potential to cause thermal effects. That's where it heats up our tissues and other biological impacts. And I don't know if anybody's noticed out there, but I sure have noticed heating of my body, and the heating of the biological tissues when that happens. That is including areas with low blood flow, such as our eyes and our genitals. These areas could be particularly vulnerable. And they've even designed different antennas to be fitted onto the human body, which people are wearing already, rings, watches, bracelets. And these people are having negative experiences from this. They're getting severe allergic reactions, headaches, fatigue. So they know this is dangerous. And the fact that 6G means we'll be dealing with laser beams leaves me extremely concerned, Zach.
Yeah, that makes me just a little bit nervous as well. I mean, we are surrounded by EMF and radio waves, television waves. I mean, all of that stuff all the time. But the concept of it being hyper-focused in a beam form and then also not only bouncing off of walls and being directed at our devices or perhaps at our heads, whatever it might be. You just went through a couple of pretty scary scenarios there. But I can see exactly how that might be a little more dangerous considering how focused it would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, experts, they're trying to emphasize the need for careful system design to ensure that these beams aren't pointed directly at people for prolonged periods. I mean, clearly they're not safe, and they already know this. Why would they even want to point these things at us for even a second? And the method used to prove the safety of wireless devices for commercial use is by assessing the specific absorption rate, also known as SAR levels. SAR is the measure of the electromagnetic energy absorbed by our flesh and then converted to heat. However, there are many researchers out there that are recently pointing out that this measure ignores the innumerable non-thermal effects, rendering it a crude estimation of safety. And to add on to this, Zach, these laser beams aren't traveling as far a distance, so there's going to be even more structures and stations popping up all around us, causing us even more exposure.
So, yeah, that was another thing that really concerned me. I mean, with each successive iteration or generation, I guess I should say, of cellular technology, the beam or the waves themselves have gotten shorter and shorter in the distance they can travel, which means that every single time we have to have like a doubling or a tripling of the antennas and the transmitters. And from what I understand, 6G travels just a very, very short distance. And unless we, each and every one of us, have our own personal 6G transmitter and then tower on top of our homes, I'm kind of mystified as to how this technology is actually going to work. And unless we actually have it implemented on a large scale, I'm also a little bit concerned as to how they can tell us whether or not it's even safe. I can't imagine that scientists are going to be standing inside of a lab pointing this at themselves for extended periods throughout the day. Maybe rats, maybe mice or something like that. But is there any hardcore research that we can look at to see exactly, what this might actually look like when it's deployed on scale?
Well, let me give you a little background. The World Health Organization, known as the WHO, thank God we're out of it, but they established the International EMF Project in 1996 to assess scientific evidence regarding the possible health effects of electromagnetic exposure. Now, this project's reviewed approximately 25,000 articles published over the last 30 years. And this is what the WHO concluded, and I quote, "The current evidence does not confirm the existence of any health consequences from exposure to low-level electromagnetic fields." Now, wait a minute, hold the phone. They determined this back in 2011. That's 15 years ago, Zach. And guess what? Their position has remained unchanged. Can you believe that? I mean, this is nuts. So we're not talking about terahertz. We're not talking about even gigahertz here. They're talking low-level radiation exposure or frequency exposure. Now, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, that's a specialized agency of the WHO, and they classified radio frequencies, EMFs, from mobile phones, Wi-Fi's, etc., as, quote, possibly carcinogenic to humans, unquote, again in 2011. Now, this classification was based on an observed increased risk for a specific type of brain cancer among the heaviest mobile phone users. And it indicates, even at those lower levels back in 2011, that a link is clearly evident.
Yeah, I remember at that time that there were a number of scientific articles that were coming out talking about the dangers of just even leaving your phone in your pocket. If you're a man, you shouldn't put your phone in your pocket because it's going to be so close to your testes. You shouldn't hold your phone up to your head. That's why they were telling everybody to get Bluetooth headsets. I think there's another set of dangers when it comes to Bluetooth. But with all of these details now sort of on the horizon, it seems pretty terrifying. Are there any specific health effects or measurable effects that we can see from what we have right now? Because back in 2011, it was just like the advent of 3G. I worked at Verizon in 2012, and they were just starting to roll out 4G, and everybody was so excited about it. But most people still had the 3G. So I know that the signals back then are far different than what they are today.
Yeah.
And
weren't they in gigahertz back then, or were they even lower than gigahertz?
I think that they were in gigahertz, and well, it might have even been megahertz. It might, because it was in like the thousands in the megahertz, and then it jumped up into the gigahertz, and then that's where we went up to 3G.
Now we're in the billions, the terahertz. Yeah. Well, these details about 6G are terrifying, Zach, and we're already suffering with dire health consequences from the 5G exposure and the other exposures prior to that. I mean, the primary established effect of intense radio frequency energy is the heating of our tissues. But however, international exposure limits are in place supposedly to prevent this from happening under normal usage. Again, what's normal usage?
Right.
And the problem with these established limits is it hasn't been studied with enough time of constant exposure to conclude that it's in fact unharmful. So, some studies have shown that, and it suggests harm, but those studies, they've criticized them for poor methodology or a lack of independent replication. They've put them down, or for using high exposure levels that don't represent real world public exposure. Well, excuse me, we're using high level of exposure these days. That's what these 5G and 6Gs are. And as you said earlier, the EMFs, the electromagnetic fields, are all around us. They're ranging from non-ionizing, low energy radiation, low doses, which are generally considered harmless, to ionizing high energy radiation, which has the potential to cause cellular and DNA damage. And again, the increasingly widespread use of the EMFs is raising important questions about the potential effects related to long-term exposure on us humans. I mean, let me give you a couple examples of some things I find very curious.
Okay.
We've got increased rates of dementia, for one. I mean, just rocketing. There's been dramatic spikes in Alzheimer's disease, such as 373% increase in diagnosis among 30 to 44-year-olds. I mean, this is unbelievable. And a 311% increase in 45 to 54-year-olds in the United States in recent years. And the timing, interestingly enough, corresponds to the large recent increases in the wireless communication EMF exposures. Now, DNA damage, DNA breakage, increased oxidative stress in our bodies, cell death, all lead to Alzheimer's and increased risks of cancer. And another thing, Zach, life expectancy in the United States is years shorter than compared to those in the UK. And the United States had 5G in every single metropolitan area before the UK even had one single 5G tower.
We were the guinea pigs.
We even have hidden towers. They're designing these things to blend into the environment. You're going to see things like fake trees and church steeples and crosses and water towers. All are designed. This is all having to do with this whole network. So, here in the United States, we've had more overall exposure to 5G and for a longer period of time. Now, 5G gets absorbed into our bodies through our sweat pores, and then it works its way through our endocrine system and then into our brains and the rest of our organs. And again, this is just the most stupid thing. The WHO hasn't changed their position on the safety of 5G since 2011. But there's so much mounting evidence that these EMF levels are impacting our gut microbiome, and that's where our health starts, and that's where our disease starts. Now, electromagnetic radiation's been shown to influence the composition of our gut microbiota. It causes oxidative stress, microbial DNA alterations, and the thermal effects, leading to that dysbiosis. And dysbiosis is when our gut flora goes out of balance, and it causes a myriad of health issues. And the gut microbiome is related to our immune health because 70 to 80% of our immune system is stored in our gut and depends on that balance of good and bad bacteria. And it's not just our immune system. There are countless examples of how your gut affects all other areas of health. Even the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary, is repeatedly emphasizing the importance of our gut microbiome. Thank goodness.
I got a clip from Dr. Makary. I think he's talking about this. Let me go ahead and bring this up.
Oh, okay.
The agency, and this is common of regulatory agencies, tend to fall behind and not be able to keep up with the times.
I agree. We talked about that.
The microbiome is the biggest frontier of medicine that we are not talking about, that we need to talk about. We know things mess up the microbiome and directly result in diseases. One of the biggest studies in modern medicine that has been ignored, and I think one of the most important studies, has been a recent study out of the Mayo Clinic that looked at kids who got antibiotics in the first 2 years of life and then tracked them as to what diseases they developed later. Now, why would antibiotics potentially cause disease? Well, the theory is that it's we know antibiotics alter the microbiome. It's almost like
out.
carpet bombing parts of the microbiome.
Yeah.
And you get bacterial overgrowth. We don't know what to do with it. We know overgrowth is associated with inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wrote down some of these study results. The kids that got antibiotics in the first 2 years of life, 20% higher rate of obesity, 21% higher rate of learning disabilities, 32% higher risk of developing attention deficit disorder, 90% higher rate of asthma,
90% higher rates of asthma in kids that were given multiple antibiotic dosages.
Any antibiotic exposure in the first 2 years of life. And there was what we call a dose-dependent relationship. The more courses of antibiotics a kid got, the greater the risk of obesity, learning disabilities, ADHD, asthma. Celiac had a nearly 300% higher risk if a kid took antibiotics.
Wow.
Crohn's disease, nearly a 300. All these diseases are going up.
Yeah.
The agency, and this is common of regulatory agencies, tend to fall behind and not be able to keep up with the times.
I agree. We talked
about
that.
The microbiome is the biggest frontier of medicine that we are not talking about, that we need to talk about.
Okay, so it's quite clear that the research, in my opinion, has not been adequately done on so much of this stuff. And I see somebody in the chat said that this was an irresponsible conversation. From my perspective, just because we are told that something is okay, that something is healthy, that doesn't mean that we should just accept that it is. And we look at what we've seen in the medical space with pharmaceuticals or with vaccines. And many of those studies were paid for by the pharmaceutical companies themselves.
Yep.
And so there is a financial component to consider there. If the people who are going to be benefiting from getting you to take these treatments are the ones paying for the studies saying that it's safe, well, then I seem to have a bit of a problem with that. And I can tell you from previously working in the wireless industry, oftentimes it's the wireless companies themselves that are also going to be doing the studies on whether or not these frequencies are going to be safe and healthy for you to be bathed in every single day. So Dr. McCarr, they're talking about the importance of the microbiome and these chronic diseases that are popping up. This is another thing that I think people can not deny. We have a overabundance of chronic diseases that are affecting people at all ages, and many of them now coming in at ages that are unheard of. I mean, you said a couple of them right there. You know, the early onset of some of these diseases are things that we've never seen in history at any point. And we have some profound changes that have been made to our environment, that have been made to our diet, that have been made to the chemicals that we bathe our bodies in every day. So the cause is out there. Something is going on.
Yeah, well, it all comes back to the gut microbiome. I mean, antibiotics means against life. Probiotic means for life. So when you take an antibiotic, you're killing everything in your gut, good and bad. And the number one thing that we can do for our gut microbiome is eat a centuries-old food that's proven itself called kimchi. It has the most diverse probiotic profile of 900 plus beneficial strains of bacteria. And kimchi was just officially recognized by the US government as a health food for the first time, Zach, which excited me to no end. They're finally using real food. And, you know, even though this is the first time that the American government is actually acknowledging kimchi as a crucial health food, it isn't the first time RFK Jr. has expressed the importance of kimchi in his own diet. I mean, he went on Fox and Friends morning show and literally said that kimchi has changed everything for him. And I even heard from a friend that he carries a jar of kimchi with him when he goes out to eat at restaurants. You know, RFK Jr., he's 71 now. He's the same age I am. And I mean, have you seen him working out? He's in good shape. He's strong. He must be doing something right.
He's ripped.
You know, I mean, he's ripped and he looks, you know, is great. And I hear so often from people, well, you know, I eat sauerkraut or I'm eating yogurt, so I don't need to eat kimchi because I have other fermented foods in my diet. Well, let me tell you, sauerkraut's great. All the other fermented foods are great. Continue to eat them. But guess what? Sauerkraut only contains 28 different probiotic strains, which may be more than a lot of your probiotic supplements out there, but it pales in comparison to kimchi, which I said, again, has plus 900 probiotic strains. And, you know, sauerkraut may have some health benefits. Yes, there's a clear reason why there are so many studies. I mean, hundreds and thousands of studies coming out about kimchi and not about other fermented foods. And, you know, Zach, we talked earlier about the astronomical rise in dementia. And I was so excited when I found this other study concerning cognitive and memory and kimchi. I mean, did you see the headline of this study? Bioactive compounds in kimchi improve the cognitive and memory functions impaired by these sticky guys called amyloid beta. And amyloid beta is a protein that's found in our brain, and it is the key marker of Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's develops when these amyloid betas clump together into sticky plaques instead of going away naturally. And kimchi actually demonstrated the ability to improve cognitive abilities, not only like memory or performance, but emotional health with things like depression and anxiety by preventing the oxidative stress, the inflammation, the brain cell death. And remember, these are the same drivers that lead to an increased cancer risk. And that's why I wanted to point out another study. That was a cancer preventative study they did with kimchi. And this study measured the potential of lactic acid bacteria that's found in kimchi to prevent cancer. Now, I'm going to quote directly from it. They concluded, this was their conclusion of this study, quote, the antibiotic tolerant probiotic presented in kimchi suppresses expression of carcinogen activating enzymes and possesses many other health benefits, such as suppression of growth and development of pathogenic bacteria, intestinal regulation, and immune boosts. Especially the W. cbiara and L. plantarum found in kimchi have many effects like anti-inflammatory, immune modulating, and blood cholesterol reducing activity, which may account for their cancer preventative anti-cancer potential, unquote.
It's powerful.
Powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So I understand that kimchi, from these various studies, protects cells and DNA from damage. What exactly is it doing, and what aspects of it are protecting us from these things?
Well, again, it goes back to the probiotics, the 4 life beneficial bacteria that reduce the oxidative stress. They're improving the gut barrier integrity. They're calming inflammation, and we all know inflammation is underneath just about every problem.
Yeah.
Antioxidants from the vegetables and spices that are used in kimchi directly neutralize the DNA damaging free radicals. And then the fermentation derived metabolites are promoting DNA repair and detoxification. And the anti-inflammatory actions, those prevent chronic oxidative energy. Now, they introduced kimchi to human cells in a test tube, Zach, and get this, it actually slowed the aging of the cells. And when you slow aging on the cellular level in our bodies, it's slowing the aging of our tissue. That's a combination of our cells, which ultimately slows the aging of our entire body.
All right. Now, there are also a ton of other health benefits that come along with kimchi. Obviously, you know, RFK had pointed to several. You've told us about a number of them in the past. But this is sounding like something that people should be consuming daily. You consume kimchi on a daily basis, right?
I do. And I've been eating kimchi for 50 years on and off, but I've started consuming it daily probably, 5-10 years ago. But so many people don't want to consume it daily, and it's hard for them. That's why we created capsules called Kimchi 1, because whether or not you like the taste of kimchi, which I absolutely love, or you don't like it, it's not something that's easy to eat for most people every day. And in these studies, they were talking about people eating kimchi every day when they did these studies. So you need to eat this every day. And now it's convenient to have every day and use these capsules for your daily use. They're low in sodium, unlike store-bought kimchi or homemade kimchi. So people that are on sodium restrictive diets, this is perfect for them. 100% made in the USA, non-GMO, all natural. And so many people call us or write us because their stories of their health has changed dramatically. And, you know, especially people with digestive problems, regularity problems, gas, bloating, people who had problems with their immune system and used to get sick all the time. They're not getting sick anymore. People who have diabetes, who can't control their blood sugar levels, now they can. People that couldn't lose weight, Zach. There's even a study that showed kimchi, when you eat it every day, it lowered your body fat by 31.8%.
Oh,
That's
wild.
gigantic. I mean, who needs Ozempic with that?
I was going to say better than Ozempic.
Effects, you know, and or as President Trump calls it, the fat drug. People, you know, they were suffering from so many varieties of symptoms, and they couldn't identify the cause, especially after 2020. We all know what happened then. These people are finally feeling better. These symptoms have gone away.
All right. And obviously, you guys are sponsors of the program. You have a special offer for the viewers today. I want to make sure you tell them about that before we finish up.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, go to brightcore.com/red pill. Use the code Red Pill to get 25% off, or call 888-383-5996 for up to 50% off and free shipping. You know, we're a small family business. I started this company 29 years ago, and we enjoy having you call, and we like to talk to you to make sure that this product is right for you. You understand how to use it. And here's another incentive. The first 100 callers, we're going to give a free bottle of Fortify with their order. Now, Fortify is one of our products, and it contains all 9 essential amino acids that protect against cellular damage, help retain muscle mass, which we all lose as we're aging, boosts hormone production, and supports your brain chemistry. And remember, you only get the bigger discount and that free bottle of Fortify and free shipping when you call into order. Call 888-383-5996. Call now.
888-383-5996. All right. Well, Kim, thank you again for coming. I really do appreciate you, and appreciate all of your information. Hopefully, we've given people some things to think about. If you guys didn't get any of that information, it's available in the description right below this video. So, Kim, I look forward to talking to you next time.
Thank you, Zach. Have a great day.
You do the same. We'll talk to you soon. All right. And thank you again to Kim for coming in and hanging out with us today and giving us some incredible information. Let me go ahead and pull up the next portion of the show. And let me see. I need to bring over a different window. All right. Now, I actually had a couple of other items about cancer, some new research that had recently dropped. I wanted to make sure that we talked about that. Real quick, before we jump into that. Oh, you know what? Hold on. This is the wrong. Oh, edit. Reopen last closed window. Reopen. Where is it? Where the heck am I? Okay. What the heck? My window of of material is gone. You got to be kidding me. History, reopen. What the hell happened to it? Wow, you guys. Everything that I planned to talk about is no longer here on my desktop. Oh, I can't believe this. Well, hold on. Reopen. Wow. Everything that I had pulled up to talk about is now gone. Well, I need to find this stuff. Hold on. What the heck? Wow, you guys. I legitimately everything that I had pulled up to talk about is now completely gone from my desktop. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. Okay, hold on. I'll have to open up a new window, and I should be able to pull up my history. And that will allow me to pull up everything that I had previously had open here. Wow, what a fumble. Can't believe that happened. Okay, so... Wow. Window with 13 tabs. That's not it. Okay. History. Okay. Okay. All right, give me just a second. I have to pull open each and every one of these tabs on their own because everything shut down on me. I don't know how that happened. All right. Thank you very much for the gifted memberships over on Rumble. I really do appreciate it. I will thank you properly in just a moment. I also have an update for you guys on Matthew Rife because I was able to finally get a hold of him last night. And there has been some problems that he's been dealing with at his company. And for those of you who have Rife machines, there are a number of you who have reached out to me. And this may explain exactly what's going on. Okay. All right, so I more or less have everything pulled up here, but it's not going to be in the order that I had intended it to be in. So real quick, while I'm getting this arranged here, let me very quickly tell you about another sponsor of the program. That is going to be my friends over here at Juvenon. All right. Let me get this pulled up. All right, so I've got a question for the men out there in the audience. Did you guys know that your nitric oxide levels start dropping pretty big once you hit your late 20s and 30s? Like, you can actually lose over half your production by the time you're 40. And that's why when you go to the gym, you're pumping up, it doesn't feel the same. Maybe your endurance starts to drop. You just don't feel as energetic as you used to do during those workouts. Juvenon has sent me something called Blood Flow 7, and it's been a big game changer. It helps to boost your body's natural nitric oxide, which means that you get better circulation, better flow of oxygen, and much bigger pumps at the gym. You're going to feel it. You're going to have fuller muscles, more stamina, quicker recovery. But it's not just about the gym. It also gives you healthy blood support for your heart, helps you out with your focus and your energy production throughout the day. There's no chemicals, there's no stimulants, there's no crash. It's just clean, sustained performance and energy. So if you want to get your edge back and feel that pump again, you can check out Blood Flow 7 by visiting bloodflow7.com/red pill. And you can go to that link that you see in the chat over there on Rumble. You can also use that QR code that you see on screen as well. Thank you very much to Rumble and Juvenon. All right, so let me see. What was the first thing I was going to talk about? That is going to be... I wanted to talk about these new studies related to cancer. Let me find that. Actually, you know what? I'll tell you about Matthew Rife first, because this is pretty important. All right, so like I was saying, Matthew has been dealing with something pretty incredible. I can't really tell you specifically what's going on, but I can tell you that he posted this on X last night, and it was one of the first things that he had posted in quite some time. So he said, I hate delivering this news. Since around November of last year, Rife Technology was forced to close. Officially closing was in December. I've been doing everything I can, but it's not looking good. I have zero access to anything Rife Technology. The FBI and other agencies are very much involved. Now, he doesn't say how the FBI is involved, but I can tell you that it's not that he's being investigated by the FBI. It's that somebody else is being investigated by the FBI, and it's on his and the company's behalf. So he says, I cannot comment on what happened, so please don't ask me. The only good news is that I am still alive. It's a lot more than what I expected to be the outcome. I have a little bit of stock left for donations to help the efforts of getting through the rest of this, and you can DM if you're positive that you want them. So if you've been looking for a Rife machine and you were unable to get one from him prior to the company closing down, you can DM him on X at Rife Technology. And if you are one of those people who are lucky enough to get through to him before they're gone, then you may be able to get yourself a free unit. So he says, thank you for everyone who's checked on me to see if I was still alive. I haven't been able to go through DMs yet. Please pray that all of this ends with me being able to reopen. God is the only reason I've made it to this point. God bless all of you. So Matthew reached out to me last night. We were scheduled to have a call earlier today. But that didn't happen. And so I was going to call him later on tonight. But he did respond and say this. I said, it's good to see you back here, Matt. I've been worried about you, bro. Lots of people in my audience as well. Hope we can talk soon. And he said, we should. I'm sure you got a strange letter. It's from the same thief who stole all of the company's money, and the FBI is after Sarah. So it sounds like he had a major breach at the company, and somebody actually defrauded him out of a ton of money and out of his company. So pretty messed up, and hopefully Matthew is going to be able to get this sorted out very, very quickly. I also wanted to mention that if you are a member, or excuse me, a resident of the state of West Virginia, if you're a resident of the state of West Virginia, you may be able to legally buy machine guns in the very near future. Gun Owners of America has just produced legislation that was introduced by the West Virginia state legislature, which is going to make it legal to sell post-86 ban machine guns to law-abiding citizens. And that means that they're going to be creating a organization as part of the West Virginia government, which is going to actually transfer these machine guns to people if you want to end up buying one. You can see here, this is Senate Bill 1071, and this is technically legal under federal law because it's going to be the government of West Virginia that's actually the FFL, essentially. And there are other states, I guess, that are taking a look at implementing something similar. So if you want to read about it, you can go to Gun Owners of America's Twitter page, and you can read the full entirety of this bill. This is pretty awesome for people who are gun lovers like myself. And obviously, I don't live in West Virginia, so I'm not going to be able to take advantage of this. But there is probably a lot of people out there who do live in West Virginia, and they may end up becoming the legal owners of machine guns in the very near future. So if that's you, I want to hear about it, and hopefully you guys will fill me in. Also, wanted to check in with Brandon Herrera and the saga of Representative Tony Hernandez, and it would appear that Brandon has now officially been endorsed by Lauren Boebert. He was previously endorsed by Chip Roy. There are now 4 members of the House of Representatives who have specifically called for Tony's removal from the House of Representatives. They want him to step down. He also refuses to answer whether or not he actually had an affair with Regina Aviles, his now former aide and former alleged mistress. And, of course, because she's passed away, she's no longer with us. She set herself on fire. I also found out that I guess while she was setting herself on fire, she was sending a video or perhaps was on a call with her husband at the time. And so I guess that there is at least a witness to this event. Beyond the fact that, B. Rhodes, God, you got to get yourself a machine gun, bro. You got to get yourself a machine gun. But it is looking more and more likely that Brandon Herrera is going to win this race. Ooh, Mr. Knowles is also in the process of moving to West Virginia. Good for you, homie. Honestly, you guys are probably going to have a great time. So it appears that members of the House of Representatives are starting to line up behind Brandon Herrera, and that is obviously going to be a wonderful thing because Brandon deserves to have this, to get this seat. He deserves to win. All right, now, I also found this video of Gavin Newsom, which is in total opposition to what he said the other day in Atlanta. Remember, in Atlanta, he said that he got a 960 on his ACT. He said that he was dyslexic. He said he couldn't read good. And here in this interview, he tells these podcasters the exact opposite. So he's talking to black people and he panders and pretends like he's not particularly intelligent, which I don't think is a good tactic to use when you're speaking to an audience of any type. It seemed like Gavin Newsom was trying to dumb down his delivery because he felt that he was perhaps above his black audience. Well, here he is with a white audience. And these people, he tells them that he read a 260-page book in an hour and a half, which doesn't sound like he's dyslexic. Now, numerous publications have reached out to Gavin Newsom at his office and attempted to verify whether or not he's actually whether or not he's actually dyslexic. They actually told them to F off. They had no comment. They said respectfully, F off. And they didn't answer the question. So let's take a look.
You've written a hell of a book, and I don't say that lightly. I went through it in a quick hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And trust me, I don't read very fast, but it reads at an unbelievable pace. It's so well written. And of course, it's so familiar because I felt a little bit adjacent to so much of the subject matter, but it's 18 chapters. It's an impressive piece of work, 263 or so pages. You've written a hell of a...
Wow. Sounds like he's a great reader. He doesn't have any problems reading that book in that short span of time. In addition to that, Gavin Newsom recently appeared on CNN, and it would appear that Gavin has a political pedigree, which seems to be something that he hasn't wanted to talk about. Apparently, his grandparents were communists. And Gavin Newsom has I guess had tried to cover it up, and CNN called him out on it and asked him how he could not know that his grandparents were communists. Take a look at this. He says he didn't know about his family lineage, their ties to Robert Oppenheimer, and Dana Bash calls him out and says, how is it possible as a politician that you wouldn't know that your family were communists and had gone to Russia?
Your great-grandfather was very good friends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And J. Edgar Hoover got a file on them.
Got a big file on them. And, and it was at the house and following them, and impacted his career, impacted his future. It also impacted the family and impacted, so their way of living and seeing the world.
But you never knew any of this.
Didn't know any of this. I mean, there were vague hints of it. But it was never fully.
I have to say there's kind of a Forrest Gump-esque notion to this, because it's, whether it's Oppenheimer, you learn that your grandmother went to the Soviet Union. I mean, they were communists.
She was Trigger Addis, an actress.
And she studied with Stanislavski.
Yeah. I didn't know this.
You did know that you're related to the Pelosi's by marriage.
Yes, that.
Your great-grandfather.
Oh, yes. And there it goes. It comes out. So Gavin Newsom obviously is some type of a political plant. I mean, there's a very real and quantifiable reason why Gavin Newsom is attempting to rise to the position that he wants to be in politics. But I think that Turn your volume up a tad bit. Okay. Wait, honey, what volume? The volume of the videos or the volume of my voice? My voice. Okay. Well, let me go to my advanced audio properties and we'll up my volume. Okay. Hopefully that's going to be it. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Gavin Newsom is a sociopath. Gavin Newsom knows exactly where he came from, and he knows exactly what he's doing when he's trying to cover that up. Okay. Here is that tweet on cancer that I wanted to show you guys. So this is from some studies that went down at Yale, where they had essentially figured out why it is that your body is unable to get rid of tumors when they grow in your body. There's a mechanism inside the tumors where they actually secrete certain growth factors that trick your brain into believing that that tumor is a necessary and essential part of your body. So as an example, lung tumors, they secrete something called NGF. It's nerve growth factor. So when they secrete this, they physically grow their own nerve supply that delivers the connection to your body from the tumor. And it means that the cancer is basically farming neurons. So then once that happens, these nerves are connected to your vagus nerve, your vagal sensory neurons. And these are the same receptors that detect heat in hot peppers. So cancer then hijacks your capsaicin sensors. And then they fire these signals up your vagus nerve into your brainstem and into your sympathetic nervous system, which affects your flight or fight activations. But, of course, you're not actually running from anything. You're just sitting there, and your tumor is actively hijacking your nervous system. So then your sympathetic nerves flood the tumor with noradrenaline. This hits the beta-2 adrenergic receptors on alveolar macrophages, and it turns them immunosuppressive, which is then why your immune system doesn't attack them. Macrophages then actively block your T cells from entering the tumor. So the ultimate result is your immune system doesn't attack the cancer, not because it can't see it, but because you've essentially been neurologically tricked into believing that it shouldn't. So they're working on a technology or a treatment that would cut that wire. And in doing so, they're hoping that they will be able to convince your body to attack those tumors. And the type of drug that they're looking at that would make that possible is something that is already widely available. It's beta blockers. So they're taking a very unique direction towards fighting cancer, essentially through neuroscience rather than just going into your body and cutting it out. Because, of course, if you leave any tumor cells behind, then they just immediately go through that exact same process that I just described to you. And then your body is no better off than it was when it began. All right, there was something else that I had related to cancer. And let me actually just search through my bookmarks and we'll see what that is. No, it's not going to be there. All right, I don't know where it is. So we're not going to worry about that. All right. So in that case, then where should we go from here? Okay. We'll jump into a little bit of Trump news. All right. So we are apparently having 2 more vacancies that are going to be opening up on the U.S. Court of Appeals. Obviously, this should allow President Trump to increase his impact on the federal judiciary. It was reported last week that Chief Judge Jeffrey Sutton, who is on the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, that's out of Cincinnati, and then Chief Judge Deborah Ann Livingston, who would be in the 2nd Circuit Court of Appeals in New York City, have just announced their plans to assume senior status later this year. They've both been appointed by George W. Bush. And once they go into senior status, that's kind of a form of semi-retirement, and it opens up a vacancy, and it allows for the current president to appoint judges to replace them. So the majority on the 6th Circuit is a Republican-appointed majority, but the 2nd Circuit only has a 1-seat majority, and that is for Democrat-appointed judges. So the vacancy on the 2nd Circuit could certainly present a more consequential opportunity for President Trump, given that they have some pretty important roles to play when it comes to financial regulation, national security, major civil litigation. And so a conservative appointment would allow President Trump to perhaps change the direction of future decisions in a really profound way. Just last year, President Trump appointed 26 federal judges. That might seem like a lot, but when you look at Joe Biden, he had 39 that he had appointed. Barack Obama, thank God, only had 12 that he was able to appoint during his first year in office. At the same time in President Trump's first term, he had filled 19 judicial slots. So appointments are moving just a bit quicker than they were that very first time around. But the overwhelming majority of President Trump's appointments during his second term seem to be right now at the district court level. And that may be a consequence of judges having already been turned against him and being owned by foreign interests and deep state interests, meaning that they don't want to give up those seats. They don't want to step down while President Trump is currently sitting in the White House. The appeals court is certainly a much more powerful role to fill. There haven't really been all that many that have opened up since 2017. And there has been obviously a lot of resistance from judicial activists working within all levels of the court system. So if President Trump is able to get a couple more consequential picks in there, then that will obviously be very good. There were over 100 vacancies when President Trump first assumed office in 2017. When he came in the second time around, there were only 40. President Trump appointed 12 appeals court judges in 2017. That was more than any president had gotten in the first year since 1945. And the vacancies that are going to be created by Sutton and Livingston obviously have a major opportunity for President Trump to do some more good. Now, the Pew Research Center reported in January of 2025, Biden had appointed 228 judges during his total 4 years in office. That is 2 more than President Trump was able to appoint in his first term. But President Trump appointed 54 appeals court judges compared to Joe Biden's 45. And President Trump has, of course, placed 3 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court versus Joe Biden's 1. Interesting fact about Ketanji Brown Jackson, which I only just learned. Do you guys remember Edgar Madison Welch? Edgar Madison Welch was the so-called Pizzagate shooter, the guy who showed up to Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington, D.C. and fired a magic bullet directly into the only computer in the restaurant that was in a broom closet that was operating their website and also a secret members-only portal that you could only get to if you were aware that it existed. Tune in tomorrow on Altered State with Brad and I because we'll be diving into that in depth. Well, the judge who sentenced Edgar Madison Welch in that case was none other than Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, Edgar Madison Welch went to prison thanks to Judge Jackson, and he got out of prison. I actually went to go try to locate him to see if I could maybe interview him. And I learned that mysteriously, after getting out of prison, of course, he was a felon, he was pulled over by a police officer. I think it was in Indiana. Somebody else was driving. He was in the passenger seat. And during the traffic stop, Edgar Madison Welch pulled a gun on the officers, and they shot and killed him right there, ensuring that Edgar Madison Welch would never talk to anybody else ever again, that he would never give anyone an interview. I was astounded to learn that. Never had I known that Ketanji Brown Jackson. You guys are saying that I'm frozen? What the heck is going on? Tell whoever in the audience might see that I'm frozen to just refresh the video. Any video? No video footage from the police. Believe me, I looked for the body camera footage of that, and I was unable to locate it. So, very interesting stuff. All right. Now, yesterday we were talking about tariffs and the possibility of refunds being given to businesses that had potentially paid out on tariffs. Well, today we have our first instance of a corporation seeking to get a refund, and that is FedEx. I find it funny that this lawsuit came out directly after Susan Rice had threatened corporate America with retribution for assisting the Trump administration during his second term here. But FedEx filed a lawsuit against the United States. They're seeking a refund from the tariffs after the IEPA ruling from the Supreme Court. Last week, of course, they struck down the tariffs in a 6-3 decision, but we have all of those other tariff options that we can go through, and so that is obviously happening. Now, in that decision, very consequentially, there was no discussion about the billions of dollars that have already been collected. President Trump addressed this during his presser last week, and he predicted we're probably going to have endless litigation related to the refunds. And of course, now FedEx is seeking a refund. Plaintiffs seek for themselves a full refund from defendants of all IEPA duties plaintiffs has paid to the United States. They are seeking a full refund of the money that they paid for tariffs unilaterally imposed last year by the president. Their lawsuit is now the first to be filed by a major American company. There are other companies who filed lawsuits seeking refunds before the high court ruled that the tariffs imposed by President Trump under IEPA were not proper. Those suits, whose plaintiffs include retail warehouse giant Costco, don't support Costco, remain pending in the U.S. Court of International Trade in New York. That is the same court where FedEx has filed their lawsuit as well. All right. Now, considering that the State of the Union is tonight, I thought it only proper to get a vibe check on the Democrats and see what they think about the state of our union. And once again, another surprise coming from CNN. Fareed Zakaria has admitted essentially that the left-wing policies of left-wing governance are ruining cities that are controlled by Democrats across the United States. New York is a prime example of that. We just talked about it yesterday. They don't want you to show an ID to vote in New York, but if you want to get paid to shovel snow, you've got to present 2 forms of ID. So the opening to Zacharia's program says that New York is a prime example of a problem Democrats seem unwilling to confront. That is a pretty remarkable admission coming from a host on CNN. He continued by saying blue cities are out of control. Wow, that's what we've been saying for years. They're promising to spend more. They're promising to spend more on people who aren't even citizens of the United States. They're also promising to deliver less, and they continue to push their fiscal problems off for the next generation, or at least the next administration. Now, Los Angeles is another excellent example. The numbers in Los Angeles are even worse than they are in New York. Obviously, the homelessness problem that we've highlighted a number of times on this show is an easy issue to look at. The budget for homelessness in the fiscal year of 2025 to 2026 is nearly $1 billion, $950 million. Now, that's not a cumulative total for the last several years. That is one fiscal year. Now, I'm sure you remember when I showed you guys that video of a homeless outreach non-governmental organization, a 501c3. They were getting public money to buy food and outreach supplies, and their one job was to go out on the streets, interact with homeless people, and give them these care packages, which included food and supplies that they might need in case they remain on the streets, as many homeless people do. But instead of just going out there and handing out this free stuff, they were instead taking the food, allowing it to expire, and then just dumping it into the Granger, the trash bin at the back of the business. Now, you might ask, $950 million, nearly $1 billion for a single year. That's a lot of money, right? You could probably do a lot of good with that much money. But the truth of the matter is they have done pretty much F all. The money for the homelessness budget, which is run by the LA Homelessness Services Authority, reported that it actually didn't make the problem any better at all. Instead of paying all that money and watching homelessness go down, it actually increased by 9% across LA County, and it increased 10% within the city of Los Angeles in the year of 2023. There was a report from the AP that came out in 2024, and they found that homelessness across the county had surged by 70% since 2015, and since 2015, it had surged by 80% within the city of Los Angeles during that same time. Now, people are rightfully angry. They want to know, where the hell is this money going? Well, considering that we've had a number of individuals who were responsible for running those nonprofits that would be the recipients of a large portion of that money having been charged by Bill Asaley at the U.S. Attorney's Office very recently, I think that it's totally appropriate to say that a good portion of that money is just going into the pockets of corrupt individuals. Now, Zachariah also interestingly posed a question that never seems to get asked by people on the left. What is the theory of good government here? Because the best I can tell, the only theory of government that I ever see kind of, purported by the left is that they need more money. If we only had more money, we could spend more money to solve the problems that everybody sees every single day. That's why they raise taxes. That's why they raise fees on services. That's why they move money from one necessary expenditure and then they put it into another. He says if the answer is keep adding programs, then the city will keep producing unaffordability, because unaffordability is what happens when government becomes a machine that grows faster than the society it governs. Now, the budget for New York that is currently being proposed by morons, Zohran Mamdani, that is a budget that actually was predicted by former Mayor Eric Adams, and it was entirely due to the influx of illegal aliens that were coming into the city. He said a couple of years ago, we're basically burning through an additional $5 billion every single year because of how many people are coming in, how many people we are forced to take care of, and that money's got to come from somewhere. So the answer was, either we stop paying for illegals or somebody else pays us the money, or we're going to have to get the money from somebody else, and it's going to end up being the citizens of New York. So the money that Zohran Mamdani is looking for in the budget is exclusively going to fund projects for illegal aliens, paying for people who are not citizens of the United States and, maybe residents of the city of New York, but they're not people from the United States of America. The budget that Mamdani is proposing is actually larger than the budget for the entire state of Florida. But you look around down here in Florida, and the quality of life is so much different. I don't pay state income taxes down here in Florida. I pay a infinitesimal amount of taxes to my county government. I don't pay taxes to my city government. I just got Pegasus. What does that mean? What does getting Pegasus mean? You'll have to explain that to me. Are you talking like the spy software? Is that it? Anyways, people want to live down here in Florida. Even though it's beautiful down here in Florida, there's nothing like the homelessness problem that you see up there in New York. You have ample space. It's clean where we live. You don't have human excrement lining the streets. You've got ample city services. Property taxes are another thing that they're looking to do away with. Oh, man. But it just goes to show you, when you have the wrong people running things and burning money faster than they can possibly can, then, okay, so how did I get Pegasus? Was there something that I missed on screen? Or did somebody just dump all of my text messages on the internet and I don't know about it yet? That's so funny. Okay. Yeah, the Israeli spy software. Is that maybe why my people were saying that my my feed was shutting down or something like that? Pegasus in Yahoo searchers. Yeah, yeah, definitely. We're on the right track with the Israeli spy software. That was the only thing that I could think about. All right, so let me dump a couple of these stories because there was, yes, okay. So you guys know President Trump is suing JP Morgan because they debanked him after January 6th. Well, they have actually been forced to admit that that's exactly why they dumped his accounts. He's currently suing them for $5 billion, and his claim is that they closed his accounts due to political reasons, which, of course, impacted his business. And in a devastating concession, which proves Donald Trump's entire claim, JP Morgan Chase has just publicly admitted to unlawfully and intentionally debanking the president. They debanked his family. They debanked his business, which, of course, caused overwhelming financial harm. Now, this is a statement coming from President Trump's lawyer. So President Trump is standing up for all those who were wrongfully debanked by JP Morgan Chase and their cohorts. Maybe some of you out here in the audience were the ones who were actually debanked as well. I had Chase because that was where my mortgage was when I lived back in Michigan. So I've still got Chase, but they never debanked me. So I never had to deal with it. I was only deleted by places like PayPal or Cash App. All right, so the former chief administrative officer for JP Morgan, Dan Wilkening, wrote in a filing in February 2021, JP Morgan informed plaintiffs that certain accounts maintained with JP Morgan Chase Bank would be closed. Now, PB stands for private bank, CB stands for commercial bank, and they deleted accounts from both. This is the first time that the bank is admitted to closing Trump's accounts intentionally. The filing said that this letter from February of 2021 revealed JP Morgan had decided to close their banking relationship with the Trump Corporation and their affiliated entities. They sent him a letter and said, please transfer your accounts to another institution or let us know where we should transfer the holdings in your accounts as soon as possible. We will continue to maintain your accounts and related services until April 19th of 2021. Now, President Trump says he actually spoke to Jamie Dimon about what was taking place. And Jamie Dimon assured Trump he would figure out what was happening. But then Jamie Dimon did absolutely nothing about it. He just kind of never called President Trump back. So the lawyers for President Trump argue that JP Morgan, put President Trump and his businesses on something called a blacklist. That this is a list that JP Morgan and other banks keep and pass around each other to ensure that the people on it cannot open accounts at other institutions. President Trump has also made similar allegations against Capital One, and his lawsuit against that company is currently pending. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I also wanted to share with you guys an update on the health status of former resident Joseph Robinette Biden. I am going to talk about the State of the Union. Yes, I'm just trying to get there. All of my tabs were closed out, and I had to basically start from nothing and remember the things that I had planned to talk about before I got to this point. Before I tell you about Joe Biden, and then we're going to transition right into the State of the Union, need to tell you about another sponsor of the program. You guys, if you perform to Rumble, so Rumble Wallet is special because banks do not have your best interest at heart. They can shut off your cards just as President Trump was shut off. They can close your accounts just as President Trump was closed. They can lock you out of your money overnight. Banks are not here to protect you. They are trying to control you. They make money off of your money, and you are not making money off of them. This is why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Hence the introduction of the Rumble Wallet. It is a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control, so you will never get caught being debanked. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You also can own Tether Gold. That is real gold. It's on the blockchain. And through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one is fully allocated. It's verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. It is real gold without bank vaults, without storage fees, without gatekeepers. So you can also buy it, sell it. You can move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can also be redeemed for a physical gold bar like what I just showed you. That is extremely powerful. So when you support content creators using the Rumble wallet, you can tip them directly through the app on your phone, or there is actually a link on my homepage, which will allow you to tip using the Rumble wallet. It's peer-to-peer. It's totally outside the banking system, so you can never have that taken away from you. There's no permission. There's no middlemen. There's no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. And the other cool thing about it is when you donate using the Rumble wallet, there is nobody to take a cut off of the top. It goes directly to content creators just like myself. Okay, so people are saying that Joe Biden's health is failing at a very rapid rate. It would appear that his cancer has spread from his prostate to his bones. Now, I want to remind everyone that when it was announced that Joe Biden had this cancer, the stage that it was at when it was fully announced to the public was like stage 4. I mean, it was like they said he didn't have cancer, and then all of a sudden he got cancer, and it was the worst kind of cancer you could have. That's BS. In my opinion, they were aware that he had this cancer long ago, and they just chose not to say anything to anybody because they were trying to see if they could pass him off for another 4 years through an illegitimate election. So now people are close to Joe Biden are saying that they're worried that this aggressive form of cancer is likely to end his life very, very soon. I can't believe it. It was only May of last year that they announced that he had been diagnosed with this. But even at that time, it had already spread to his bones. So the Washington Post is reporting that close friends of Biden, I don't know how many close friends he has, but we'll just, for the sake of the argument, say that that's what's been happening. They're expressing concerns over his health as he battles cancer and undergoes treatment. You've got 2 former Biden officials who spoke to the Post and said that Biden has looked more fatigued than usual. That's got to be a bad sign. And that it's taken a major toll on the 83-year-old former resident. Longtime friends and allies of Joe Biden say they are worried about the toll an aggressive form of prostate cancer is taking over the former president and his health. But Biden and his aides say he's doing well. He's making progress on ongoing projects and maintaining public appearances. Joe Biden has been encouraged as he's gone through treatment, and aides said the former president is doing well, as they could hope, nearly a year after he announced his metastatic prostate cancer diagnosis. But 4 people close to Biden who have spoken with him in recent months spoke on the condition of anonymity because they could not publicly discuss sensitive details than they wanted to. They said they've had no updates from the president on his condition. So it sounds like the people who are telling you he's doing great are just kind of towing the narrative. The people that did talk about how bad he's doing, including those 2 former Biden officials and, I guess, a Democrat who is currently in some public office, said that he is appearing to be more fatigued in private interactions over the last couple of weeks. People are saying that they're worried about him and that this particular strain of cancer and its treatment is not looking good for old Joe. But that hasn't stopped him from going out in December. He spoke at an LGBTQ forum in Washington, D.C. Of course, he stumbled over his words on a number of occasions. At one time, he tried to say America, but he pronounced it Amerigot. Amerigot. I think maybe we actually have a video of that. Let's see. Amerigot. Here we go.
We just have to get up. As long as we keep the faith, summon hope, and get back up and remember who in the hell we are. We're the United States of America. That's who we are. We're the U.S. And there's nothing. I mean.
I don't know. I saw it in the chat. Which version of Joe Biden is that? I guess later he went to a Philadelphia Eagles game with Dr. Jill. So we'll see. I don't have a lot of high hopes. It would appear that this is probably not going to be all that good for Joe. All right. I'm going to have to open up a new tab here and find my coverage of the State of the Union. So we have a preview of what President Trump is going to be discussing. We also know who is going to be speaking on behalf of the Democrats in their rebuttal for President Trump. Okay. Let me see. Oh, we also have a attempted suicide by someone who was in the Epstein files. We're going to talk about that. Let me see. Also, it would appear that 40 congressional Democrats are going to be skipping the State of the Union because they don't want to support President Trump. I have to be honest, I don't think that's going to be a real big problem for President Trump. It just means there's going to be fewer people booing from the audience. It's going to make it easier for him to get through his speech. Okay. Let's see. Where is it? We've got the designated survivor that's been chosen for the Democrats. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is what we expect President Trump to discuss tonight. Let me re-add this to... Here we go. All right, so tonight at the State of the Union, President Trump is going to be joined by his cabinet, by the Supreme Court of the United States, by his Vice President, J.D. Vance, and he will be delivering this speech tonight during a joint session of Congress at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you want to watch it with me and a couple of other people, we're going to be streaming it over on Badlands, and then we're going to be doing some commentary, I believe, during, maybe before and after. Generally speaking, I like to respect President Trump and just let the man cook. Don't like interrupting him. This is going to be President Trump's first State of the Union from this second term in office. And I think that it probably should go rather well. I don't know about you guys, but I think if you've been watching me for any length of time, it's pretty obvious how I feel about the direction that the nation is going. He should probably be hitting on some of his major policy wins, border security and immigration enforcement. That's an easy one. Some of the past efforts and ongoing initiatives to spur economic growth. I would imagine we're probably going to be hearing about the billions upon billions of dollars that are being invested by other nations. Probably his revitalization of the Department of War, military readiness. Although we have increased budgets for military readiness, President Trump is also miraculously overall decreased the budget for the Pentagon, and every single year successively, the budget will go down like another 9 or 10%. I can't tell you a time in history that that's gone on. We are also obviously going to be expecting to hear him talking about the position of America on the global stage. I would imagine he's probably going to bring up the lack of global conflicts, the creation of the Board of Peace. The one conflict that he's looking to finish is going to be the war between Russia and Ukraine. And approximately 50 Democrat lawmakers are not going to be joining. They're going to be skipping. There should probably be most of the top leadership, people like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, maybe some other lesser individuals, but there are quite a few who are planning to boycott the event. And now, again, I don't have a problem with that. These people don't want to show up. They don't want to respect what's happening in America. Then they can go ahead and just, F off down the street and have their own little pity party. They plan to hold a counter event. It's going to be called the People's State of the Union, which I find to be just incredibly ironic because the platform of the Democrats does not seem to be the platform of the people, unless they're just kind of using it in the colloquial communistic type sense. But that should be over at the National Mall. It's going to be organized by Move On and Notorious Shill Rag Midas Touch. And I guess they're going to have a State of the Swamp event as well. These are the verified Democrats that are going to be showing up. Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is skipping. He's going to be at the People's State of the Union rally. Chris Murphy, Chris Van Hollen, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, Patty Murray, Ron Wyden, Ruben Gallego, Tina Smith, Angus King. All of them are going to be going to that other event. AOC is just going to be skipping altogether, I guess. Whole bunch of other Democrat troublemakers, they're also not going to be joining. You know what? I just realized I've got a number of donations over here that I haven't said thank you for. So let me go ahead and pop that over. Sherry K47 says, here comes the technology to implementation of the mark of the beast. But in other news, love your show, Zach. So grateful for you and all your insight. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have to be honest with you. That's one of the things that I'm worried about as well. But I think a lot of people are. Tricia says, I wonder about satellite phones. Would they still use 5G or 6G? Another thing, would Faraday concept help block those beams? So yes, Faraday definitely would protect you from EMF radiation of all types. Satellite phones are operating on their own unique frequency. So, because otherwise every phone would be able to get satellite phone calls. Modern day iPhones have a satellite phone chip in them, which allow them to lock on to Starlink satellites, but most cell phones don't have that. Also, Trisha says, I'm taking Kimchi 1 and Bright Moss every day. I can't tell the difference. I wonder if it's because I still take pharmaceuticals for my heart. That may have something to do with it. I want to wean off of them all, even the blood thinner. I've heard of a couple of different people recently through homeopathic means being able to get themselves off of blood thinners and a number of blood pressure medications. Okay, thank you again, Trisha. 1% 10 says Moron Zamdani. Moron Zamdani. Bruder Mart 71 says, thank you for all you do, Zach. We need the info to cope with this narrative war daily. Greatly appreciated. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right. Now, it only seems proper that we take a look at what the Democrats are going to say in response. And again, they have chosen Abigail Spanberger to deliver the opposition speech. Let me pull that up. And let me get rid of a couple of these useless links that I'm not going to need anymore. Okay, so Abigail Spanberger is an interesting choice because she's obviously just taken over the state of Virginia. As soon as she came in, she immediately got about the business of redistricting, doing exactly what the Democrats were complaining about, Republican states doing. She's also increased taxes. She's making everybody's life a living hell, as far as I can tell. So she will be delivering the official rebuttal. Let me see. So the White House has commented on what she's planning to say, and they say that Spanberger will contrast Democratic extremism with President Trump's road to prosperity. And they further outlined how her counter-Trump agenda will prioritize illegal aliens, attack law enforcement, should lean into reckless spending, climate extremism, support for extreme transgender ideology and DEI, and don't forget the rigging of elections. One of her first matters of business as she became governor last month, she signed 10 executive orders, including one that ended Virginia's cooperation with federal law enforcement, and that includes ICE. She turned Virginia into a sanctuary state. She rescinded an executive order by her predecessor, Glenn Youngkin, that required state police to participate in the federal 287G program and to enforce ICE detainer requests for illegal aliens in custody. So the White House, in their full statement, said tonight, while President Trump highlights the successes of his America First agenda in slashing costs, revitalizing manufacturing, securing our borders, and delivering real relief, Spanberger's response will only underscore her party's commitment to the failed lunacy Americans rejected, the White House said. Americans deserve better than the radical left's vision of higher taxes, weaker borders, and divisive ideology. While Spanberger and Democrats stand firmly in opposition to prosperity, President Trump is delivering real results for all Americans. And I have to say, I probably agree. Now, they also went over some of the priorities the Spanberger administration has had in Virginia, which includes the termination of that agreement with ICE, which gives criminal illegal alien killers, rapists, and gangbangers a pass. When she was in Congress, she repeatedly undermined border security. She voted against the Secure Border Act. She supported a pathway to citizenship for more than 2 million illegal aliens, co-sponsored an amnesty bill for millions of illegals. She twice voted to terminate President Trump's national emergency declaration at the southern border. She also refuses to condemn an extreme D.C. crime bill that reduced penalties for violent criminals, put millions of citizens and visitors to our nation's capital at risk. She has consistently defended defunding police efforts and accepting tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from the very groups that advocate for defunding law enforcement. She also supports reckless spending, and she enthusiastically supported Joe Biden's multi-trillion-dollar tax and spend spree, ignoring warnings about skyrocketing inflation. She opposed President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which cut taxes for 80% of taxpayers. She said it was irresponsible. She also opposed the Working Families Tax Cut, which delivered unprecedented tax relief for nearly every American. She proposed over 50 new taxes on Virginians just weeks after taking office. In January of this year, she proudly announced that Virginia was rejoining the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is going to impose costly regulations on energy producers that raise electricity bills for families and businesses. I saw somebody on the internet who had just gotten their new electricity bill in Virginia, and it went up dramatically. They were wondering how they were going to be able to afford paying their bills. She's also a big fan of gender ideology. She voted against the passage of the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. She voted twice to allow men into women's restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms. She advocated against restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors. She also is a big fan of DEI. She has a chief diversity officer in her cabinet, and she thinks that DEI should be made into a constitutional mandate. She has ties to extremist organizations that push critical race theory. She backs a Democrat takeover of federal elections. She actually co-sponsored and voted for a bill that would take away control of elections from state governments, making it easier to cheat and manipulate election results. So President Trump, again, will be highlighting the stupendous acceleration of his America First agenda, while Abigail Spanberger will be talking about the destruction of Virginia. Now, considering the mention of elections right there, Rasmussen has just produced a poll asking the citizens of the United States their opinions on electronic voting machines. These are the same ones used all around the country. And the results are remarkably consistent, and dramatically self-evident. The majority of Americans do not believe that the election materials pushed through electronic voting machines are trustworthy or are going to be secure. Nearly 2/3 of Americans are highly concerned that electronic voting systems could allow votes to be changed remotely through internet connections made during voting, considering that these electronic voting machines have modems that are installed in them, and there has been evidence to show that there were connections ongoing during the election process. It seems pretty obvious to me that they can't be trusted, and I'm certainly not willing to just allow them to be trusted. And we've heard many different lies ever since 2020 telling us that our election system is safe and secure, that these machines may have the ability to connect to the internet, but they actually don't. We've found evidence to suggest that the exact opposite is true. And that's probably why 62% of Americans believe that the 2020 election was stolen. So it's pretty clear and obvious that out of 2/3 of Americans, we believe that elections need to be fundamentally changed. We need to have something else put into place, which, again, harkens back to President Trump's promise that before we get to the midterms, we are going to have something put into place which will require voter ID, and I would hope no electronic voting machines. All right, now, this is, oh, shoot, I did not mean to do that. So there was a case that we talked about a couple of days ago. And then they drove that ambulance filled with gasoline and some other type of incendiary devices into a building that was going to be housing DHS and ICE office space. I didn't know at the time that the person who did that wasn't caught right away, but now federal and local authorities have hunted down the individual who was responsible for that attack. Again, it was an ambulance that was stolen from a hospital. It was packed with gas cans. It was rammed into the DHS office space in Meridian, Idaho, and then they attempted to set it on fire, but they weren't successful. It turns out that, unsurprisingly, this is an anti-ICE agitator, somebody who was likely already on the radar of ICE and DHS. So St. Luke's Hospital is where the ambulance was stolen from, and they did approach this as an act of terrorism, a serious, dangerous criminal act. Not only was it a theft of an emergency vehicle from a hospital, so then likely people were unable to receive emergency transportation and therefore care at the hospital, but they also damaged federal property, and they had the intention to destroy and maybe even kill and maim officers of ICE and members of the Department of Homeland Security. They are saying that it's not simply property damage. This is an act of terrorism and an act of violence. It turns out that the person who did this was a 43-year-old woman by the name of Sarah Elizabeth George. She's from Boise, Idaho, and they arrested her on Monday night. Meridian Police did. Also, the FBI was there. Also, the ATF was there, and they were able to secure and then execute a search warrant at her home. We have an announcement from the police chief in Meridian, and we're going to go ahead and take a listen to that right here.
As most of you know, late Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, Canyon County paramedics had an ambulance stolen from St. Luke's Meridian. The suspect took that ambulance and drove it into the Portico North building, where they had also staged cans of gasoline and poured gasoline inside of the ambulance as well as on the floor outside of the ambulance in what we believe was an attempt to burn the building. Well, today I'm glad to announce that we have made an arrest of Sarah Elizabeth George, a 43-year-old female of Boise, Idaho. The Meridian Police Department, along with the local federal Bureau of Investigation, the local Bureau of Tobacco, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, served an arrest warrant on George and executed a search warrant at George's residence earlier this evening. Agents and detectives are currently processing the scene at the residence now, collecting evidence. These investigators standing here are responsible for this timely arrest. And the first thing I would like to point out is the men and women of the Meridian Police Department and the men and women of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and the FBI did an amazing job over the last 5 days, working long hours, working diligently to positively identify Miss George and bring her into custody. Really, it was good old-fashioned police work that got us to where we were at tonight. These investigators literally went door to door looking for possible camera footage, possible witnesses, and other information and evidence stemming from I-84 to Fairview, from Locust Grove to Cloverdale.
Now, he makes mention of like ring camera footage and security camera footage so that they could try to figure out the movements of this person after she left the scene of the crime. But wait until I tell you exactly how they caught her. She's actually been charged with malicious destruction of government property by fire and malicious destruction of property used in interstate commerce. Let's see. She stole a Canyon County paramedics ambulance outside Luke's hospital at approximately 11 p.m. Minutes later, surveillance footage reportedly shows the stolen ambulance crashing through the southern entrance at the Portico building. The building is where the ICE office space was, and it's leased by the General Services Administration. She didn't stop when she rammed the building. They've got CCTV footage showing her retrieving the gas cans from inside the ambulance. Then she pours gasoline throughout the lobby, and she was attempting, obviously, to set the place on fire. Don't know exactly how she didn't set it on fire. Maybe her lighter didn't work or something like that. But when they arrived at the ambulance, they found a Walmart bag, which contained the lighter fluid and the 2 red gasoline jugs that they got from the scene. The Walmart bag had the effing receipt for those very gasoline jugs. So then they went to the Walmart where this was purchased, and they were able to get footage from the Walmart of her buying the gasoline. And then surveillance footage also shows her going to the gas station, filling up those very gasoline jugs, and she uses her Fred Meyer points card, which of course is connected to her name. It gave them her identity. She was thinking, you know what? I commit an act of malicious destruction of property and terrorism and set some arson fire over at a government building. I want to make sure I get my freaking points for buying this gas. So, yeah, she left evidence that led directly to her. Absolutely insane. So they got all the footage that they needed. Here she is at Walmart buying the jugs of gasoline. They've got, all of these physical aspects they can use to go ahead and identify her. It looks like she's a fan of the Detroit Lions, maybe. Here she is walking out of Walmart. You've got her face right there. They've got all the cameras. They've got her in her blue Ford Ranger actually pumping the gas, making sure she gets her points because she enters her card. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a Ford Ranger. It's a 2005 Dodge Dakota. Same, category. But so anyways, they looked and they said, let's just figure out if a 2005 Dodge Dakota is registered to the same person who used their Fred Meyer card at the gas pump. And they said, guess what? We have one person with the same last name as the person who purchased the gasoline jugs and got the points for the gas at the gas station. And then they also went to her Facebook page and they found a whole bunch of posts that were critical of DHS and ICE. And you can see right here, here's one of them. Sarah George, if it can be destroyed by the truth, then it should be destroyed. It was built on lies anyways. And it shows a picture of the White House on fire. If we arrest them all, the system will collapse, she says. And I guess this is a representation of her. If we burn, you burn with us. Hashtag America, hashtag unite. So they reviewed the Idaho DMV database. They discovered she had recently been pulled over during a traffic stop weeks earlier. So they have the camera footage from that. I don't know what's up with these people, like shaving their heads on the sides and still having long hair. I mean, it doesn't do them any favors. If she is convicted on the arson and terrorism charges, she's going to be spending decades in prison. She is a mother, too. I mean, so she's going to leave children without a mother. It's pretty sad. Now, here is actually a local news report where we can see the damage that was done as a result of her terroristic activities.
Police identified the suspect as 43-year-old Sarah Elizabeth George of Boise. Police say they arrested George just before 5 o'clock today outside her home in Boise. Investigators say they spent the last 5 days canvassing, reviewing surveillance footage, and using technological analysis to identify George. As we previously reported, last Wednesday, an ambulance was parked in the ambulance bay outside St. Luke's Hospital in Meridian while a crew transported a patient inside. When Canyon County paramedics returned, Their vehicle was gone. Police say George drove the ambulance into the Portico North building near the hospital. Investigators believe George intended to set the building on fire, but ran away when first responders arrived. This incident happened in the same building where the Department of Homeland Security recently leased space.
I want to stress, this type of criminal behavior will not be tolerated in Meridian. This conduct is unacceptable. It will be investigated, and it will be charged to the fullest extent of the law.
She's fooked. Yeah, there's no way about it. And I see it in the chat. Somebody over on YouTube said that her kids are going to be better off. Sadly, I have to agree with you. Her kids probably will be better off. And that really is too bad. Too bad for her. All right. Now, let us discuss a little bit related to the Epstein case, because we have a couple of interesting new updates. Now, that former Norwegian prime minister I told you about a couple of weeks ago, Thorbjørn Jagland, he's just being hospitalized. He has been criminally charged for corruption with his ties to Epstein. And initially, it was reported that he had attempted suicide. Now his lawyer is saying that he didn't actually attempt suicide. I wonder if somebody tried to arkancide him. So the press was shocked when this initial unconfirmed report came out that he had been hospitalized after a suicide attempt. I guess this happened a week ago. His attorney is Anders Brosvit of the Eldon law firm, and he's come forward to say, okay, yeah, he is in the hospital, but there was no suicide attempt. Initially, the hospitalization occurred on the 17th of February. It could just be that he was attempting to maybe gain a little bit of sympathy, or to perhaps make the case that he is ill in general, and so therefore he shouldn't be prosecuted. But they said it is on the basis of a rock-solid source that Nyheter chooses to publish what happened a week ago. This is a publication there in Norway. According to the source, Jagland's condition is serious. The source does not want to disclose which hospital now is treating the top politician. He was only charged on the 12th. I find it very interesting that his health took a turn that quickly, within 5 days of being outed, being charged, and then basically having his life implode. His homes have been raided. The press are hounding him. And a corruption unit is called a coverup, and that's probably not how you actually pronounce that, but you know there is the O with the slash through it. I don't even know how you pronounce that. It's in Norwegian. So they are the central unit for the investigation and prosecution of economic and environmental crimes. They sent a letter to the Council of Europe asking for Jagland's immunity to be waived because that was the only way they were going to be able to charge him. This immunity was lifted the day before the searches took place. In the letter from the organization investigating him, it emerged that Jagland and his immediate family several times in the period between 2011 and 2018 used Epstein's private apartments in Paris and New York, as well as stayed at Epstein's villa in Palm Beach, Florida. And his lawyer is saying, you know, he's in the hospital, but it's not like he tried to kill himself. Trust me on that, bro. So we'll have to get an update on that one in the future. Now, we also have information related to another close confidant of Jeffrey Epstein, that one being Dr. Peter Attia. Dr. Peter Attia was the doctor working for CBS News who was featured in the Epstein files in thousands of messages going back and forth to Jeffrey Epstein. He was the one who famously said that the most difficult part of being Jeffrey Epstein's friend was something related to knowing his wild lifestyle, but being unable to tell anyone about it. Now, Jeffrey Epstein's lifestyle involved the trafficking of minor girls, bringing girls in initially from West Palm Beach and then eventually in from Eastern Europe. So I can only think of one lifestyle that Dr. Peter Attia may have been referring to. Ah, yes, here we are. You the biggest problem with becoming friends with you. The life you lead is so outrageous, and I can't tell a soul. So after this came out and the backlash, oh yeah, he also said pussy is indeed low carb. That's right. And that he was going into Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal when he didn't see him often enough. That's highly disturbing. Well, anyways, he is now stepping away from his position at CBS News. I think the only thing surprising about this is that CBS just didn't fire him. I mean, why keep him on? Why give him the opportunity to step away from his job at CBS? I mean, who wants a guy like this to be on staff? So anyways, previously Peter Attia had responded to the outrage, and he said that, I never did anything wrong, and I never knew Jeffrey Epstein was doing anything wrong. All I knew was that he liked girls, and, I could get laid when I hung out with him. I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he said, but that was the spirit of the whole thing. So anyways, he was a highly respected individual at CBS News, and he was going to be part of editor-in-chief Barry Weiss's new tactic at CBS of creating an organization that people could trust. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that we're going to have a whole lot of people trusting CBS News, even now that Peter Attia is leaving CBS News. So good to know that he's no longer going to be around. We also had a very interesting breaking story that was discovered by CBS News in the Epstein files, and it appears that during a 5-year period, Jeffrey Epstein and several of his closest confidants were under investigation by the DEA. That's right. There was a drug trafficking investigation that was being done into Jeffrey Epstein and his network. Now, we know this because CBS found a 69-page memo from the DEA that was hidden within the files, and it talks about this 5-year federal probe into wire transfers that Jeffrey Epstein was making that the DEA was able to link to illicit drugs and or prostitution activities. The transfers were taking place in the Virgin Islands and New York, of course, both places where Jeffrey Epstein had famous home bases. So the probe was launched in 2010. So that was kind of in the midst of his case down in Florida. And it continued until 2015. Now, many of us have often said, follow the money. Why don't you just follow the money and see who Jeffrey Epstein was getting money from, who he was sending money to? That'll tell you everything you need to know about his criminal network. Well, here in this DEA investigation, they tracked somewhere north of $50 million in shady transfers that were coming in from accounts in Switzerland, France, the Cayman Islands, and New York. Now, most interestingly is that this investigation also names 14 other targets. The only problem is that those targets are largely redacted. But it does expose that Jeffrey Epstein had a number of concurrent investigations that were going on into his trafficking business, be it trafficking of people or, in this instance, apparently trafficking of drugs. We also do know that there were ICE investigations in West Palm Beach, Las Vegas, and Paris into Jeffrey Epstein because he was bringing in these girls from other parts of the world. We also, of course, had the FBI investigation, which was active from 2006 all the way up until 2015. So that would have crossed from the George W. Bush administration into the Barack Obama administration. And, of course, the SDNY had their investigation, which led to Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in 2019. But what's really shocking about the SDNY investigation is that they apparently had zero knowledge of the DEA investigation that took place 9 years earlier. So the DEA or the FBI or the CIA or whomever was able to successfully silo this investigation and keep it out of the hands of anybody who might look into it. So that likely means that other people in other portions of the federal government that might have wanted to look into Jeffrey Epstein were probably unable to even see that this investigation had ever happened. So we can see here on this this document, it says it's sensitive but unclassified. Probably want to bet that it was classified and filed incorrectly, so that if you did a search for Jeffrey Epstein in any other number of places, you wouldn't find it. But you can see here the various agencies that were connected to it. You have FBI, ICE, CBP, DEA, DSS, FinCEN, and DOS. I don't know what DOS is. I'd have to look that up. But from what I understand, Ava and Glenn Dubin were connected to this. You can see here, intelligence analysis indicates counterfeit components pose a high but largely unreported threat to all parts of the government supply chain. This is from page 8 of this report, jeopardizing the safety of critical U.S. infrastructure and those who rely on mission-critical equipment. OCR has historically focused on this. What the heck? No, this is not. So, okay, so this is from the probe on intellectual property rights. Somebody had linked to the incorrect report. So let me see. Where is the number for this? Muffin, what are you doing? Hang on. I'm going to go to... I did have a link with more detailed information on this report, and I don't know where it is because everything got shut down. 1 second. Let me... Oops. Jeffrey Epstein visas. Epstein DEA. Yeah, so allegedly Glenn and Ava Dugan were part of this. All right, here is the file number. That's what I wanted right there. All right, so let me pull up. We don't want to go to Jmail. We want to go to doj.gov/Epstein. What the now my internet's not working? What are you doing? Now I've been Pegasused. Okay. DOJ Epstein. Yeah. Oh, it's justice.gov/Epstein. Yes, I am 18 years of age. Share this tab and search for the document. There we go. Okay. All right. So, again, this is 89 pages, so it's pretty exhaustive. Nobody has a 5-year investigation looking into their financial transactions at this level and doesn't have some sort of illegal activity going on. Now, we can take a look at the background. So this request was initially submitted from the DEA in New York, and it was available reporting through the Fusion Center. Jeffrey Epstein is the only name that isn't redacted. A DEA reporting indicates the above individuals are involved in illegitimate wire transfers, which are tied to illicit drug and or prostitution activities occurring in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New York City. Analytical findings: this target probe product was prepared from a series of queries against the available databases. Reporting relative to the subjects was found in Customs and Border Protection, DEA, DOS, non-immigrant visas. Okay, so DOS has something to do with the visa scam that Epstein was running, bringing the girls over from Eastern Europe. DSS is the Diplomatic Security Service. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's going to tie in something to do with the State Department. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. FinCEN is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And Immigration and Customs Enforcement databases, as well as a commercial database, Accurant. Through a phone conversation, the requester indicated recent financial information of the targets would be beneficial to the investigation. ran from 2010 to 2015. Older financial information on the targets is available, meaning that there's likely more information. The money was actually broken down into individual targets from the investigation. It's already been admitted that that Congress has requested all of the suspicious activity reports. FinCEN is the one who would handle those suspicious activity reports, so those would likely be part of this same investigation right here. And they go through and they detail each and every one of these individual transactions, where they were coming from and where they were going. I don't exactly know how deep these federal agencies would be able to dive in on accounts that would be in other nations. Like, obviously, the financial activity reports in the United States would flag these suspicious transactions. That would go to FinCEN and Treasury, and then they would be able to see everything on this end. They would have bank numbers, account numbers for those foreign banks. But I don't know what the actual formatting of the owners of those accounts would be. Likely, the United States government would probably have to petition those foreign banks to give information about the owners of those accounts. And if they were successful, then those people's names would be among the 14 that are currently redacted in here. I don't see any good reason. I'll be really honest with you. I don't see any good reason for any of these people's information to be redacted in this report when you have sufficient reason to believe that these are suspicious transactions that, as the DEA said, are connected to either drug trafficking or prosecution. 100%. We know there's no China accounts, IHOF. There's no China accounts. It's all European accounts, and there's no Israel accounts either. But that's not to say that Chinese or Israeli citizens don't have accounts that would be in Switzerland or in any of the other European nations that they were able to track these suspicious transfers coming and going from. But, you know, they have each and every one of these million-dollar, multi-million-dollar transactions. They know exactly. Oh, we have a name. Idzikowska. That appears as if it was supposed to be redacted. Idzikowska. Okay. That's great. That's great. Okay, hold on. We're going to go to Gmail. This is exactly what I was looking for, to see if they forgot to redact anything. Yes. And let's search for Idzikowska. Oh, man. Idzikowska. Nothing came up. Let me see. Let me see if I search for anything else. Just on the internet. No. Okay. How do they spell it? Idzikowska. Idzikowska. Nothing. Nothing for Idzikowska. Let me do search for that again with the correct spelling. No, I don't mean Idzikowska. So that's, what is it, a band or something? Idzikowska. Marina. Model booker. Holy shit, I bet you this is her. Marina Idzikowska. Model booker. Holy shit. Of course, it's totally unconfirmed, but this is right up the alley of Jeffrey Epstein. So Marina Idzikowska is a booker for models. Kostya Idzikowska? Maybe a photographer? No. Okay. Let's see. Mariana Idzikowska. She would have been a little old for Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, I'm gonna dive in and see exactly who she is and see if she has a connection to Jeffrey Epstein. She's Polish, so Eastern Europe. That would That would be right in Jeffrey Epstein's wheelhouse. Marina Idzikowska, Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, right here. Got it. From the Kiev Independent, Epstein's Russian connections. Gay. She's not Russian. But of course, it's so funny. It's so funny how the latest attempt to steer research on the Epstein files is to blame Russia. I could have predicted that one. But you take a look through all of the names in the Epstein files, and there's definitely a theme. I think everybody here knows exactly what it is, but it's not Russia. It ain't Russian. Okay, so Mariana Idzikowska. Oh, okay, no, I'll do it later. Just let me read the article. Trump and Putin. We can't forget Donald Trump. Donald Trump. I wonder if maybe he refers to her by her first name. Ties to U.S. ambassador. We've already talked about that. Here we go. Now that's Maria Zakharova. Svetlana. Know about her. Alexander Dugin. I think that she was referenced along with Dugin in some fashion. Okay, where the hell is it? How do I search? How do I search in? Okay. How to search a web page in Opera. Control F. Control F. Okay, here she is. Dugin appeared in Epstein's messages with Polish model Mariana Idzikowska in 2014-2015. This is in the midst of that DEA investigation, as well as in a chat with former White House strategist Steve Bannon. That's the only reference to her here. Okay, so we actually have a link with that name. Subject, Maria Idzikowska likely is the subject of two 2015 suspicious activity reports totaling $4,079,102. See Idzikowska's financial information section for more info. Okay, so let me just write this down so that I remember that we have one name that we have figured out. Let's keep looking. And I'm sorry, I just realized I was looking at a page that you guys couldn't see. I was too deeply invested. Oh, wow, look at that. The whole thing. Okay. So, criminal history, pinpointing geographic locations, discovering target associations based on vehicle stops. This is just details of how they had the authority to search for this information. All of that is redacted. Offline inquiries of criminal records, following people, basically, seeing where they went. So these people were under surveillance, and they likely figured out what they were doing, which is, you know, why they could say that it was related to drugs and prostitution. All right, they've got his flight information of where he was going. Looking to see, sometimes they'll forget to redact somebody's name in the flight information. Okay, so these are specific. These these must be trips or points of investigation by these various agencies. Cash in and out. Those are individual suspicious activity reports. These are the bank transfers between Epstein's accounts and these individuals who were also under investigation. Okay. Yeah, I would be real surprised if there was anything else that told us anything additional. Okay, so we're about halfway through this, but I'm just basically trying to get to the end of this document and see if there's anything else that they had forgotten to redact. Nope. Wow, I cannot believe so much of this document is completely redacted. Wow. They really don't want you to know. This is a pretty big deal here to imagine that this investigation took place for 5 years. They had 14 people that were being investigated along with Jeffrey Epstein. They were already aware that he was trafficking women. They have all of the financial transactions. They know exactly which banks are transferring the money, who owns the accounts of those transactions. They're all suspicious, and nothing happened as a result of it. Okay, so one more piece of one more point of interest with regard to this. And I think that it may explain why nothing happened, even though there was an investigation by the DEA. Jeffrey Epstein actually employed an ex-DEA agent. You can see here in this email from 2010, which had been right about the same time that this investigation began, Epstein is emailing Jess Staley from Chase and Deutsche Bank, and he tells him that he's sending his driver to go pick him up. Well, his driver was a former DEA agent. So the DEA agent, former, is going to be picking him up. And, of course, Jeffrey Epstein employing somebody who worked at the DEA, seems likely that that person would still have connections at the DEA, might even have the ability to ensure that an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, despite everything that they knew, that it would go absolutely nowhere. Fascinating. All right. Now, the Democrats are also going to have with them tonight, Ro Khanna is inviting a young woman with him, and she is officially a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Officially a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. However, her history is just a little bit more complicated than that. And her name is Haley Robinson. Now, I'm going to show you this video of Haley Robinson. Well, actually, first I'll have you listen to this tape. This is a secret recording of Haley Robinson, a Jeffrey Epstein victim. But, well, first of all, maybe I should play this video of Ro Khanna. This is Ro Khanna talking about the fact that he's going to have this brave Epstein survivor with him at the State of the Union tonight.
Today, Great Britain arrested Lord Mendelsohn because of his alleged ties to Epstein. Isn't it ironic that Thomas Massey and I forced the release of the Epstein files here in the United States of America, but there's no action in America, but action everywhere else in the world? Former Prince Andrew is being investigated and prosecuted in Britain. In Norway, they are investigating and prosecuting a former prime minister. In France, they are investigating and prosecuting government officials and business leaders. But nothing here in the United States of America. Our FBI director, Kash Patel, flew for the Olympics to Italy, drinking with our hockey team. Our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is hurling insults to members of Congress. But they've forgotten about the survivors, the thousands of survivors who just want justice. Haley.
So, like I said last night, if you were listening to Baseless Conspiracies, The cabinet level positions, the director of the FBI, the attorney general of the United States, it doesn't matter who it is. They're at the top of an organizational pyramid. And then underneath them is a management structure of individuals who host and delegate a series of tasks. And as you go down that chain, you have, broader and broader tasks, and you get more and more granular. The attorney general is not handling the day-to-day business of the Department of Justice. The director of the FBI is not handling the day-to-day business of the FBI. Kash Patel was in Milan for an operation to keep the Olympians safe. That's why he went to the hockey game. He plays hockey. He's a fan of hockey. I have no problem with Kash Patel going to a hockey game. Okay, he's there to do something. It didn't cost the American taxpayer anymore. I could give two shits that he drank a beer and sang a song and, sprayed beer on the winners. Who cares? Who cares? What I care about is the discernment of people in positions of power. All right? I care about ultimately the decisions that they end up making. Overall, Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, it's through them that the Epstein files even came out. Ro Khanna wants to take responsibility for it. He's constantly talking about the victims. Several of the victims that he have brought forward have actually been co-conspirators with Jeffrey Epstein. Haley Robinson appears to be one of those people. Now, her situation is a little bit more complicated because she was a minor when she became a victim, but she very quickly transitioned into a co-conspirator. Listen to this.
Hopson just wants justice. That's why I'm inviting her as my guest tomorrow at the State of the Union. She'll be speaking not just for herself, but for the thousands of survivors. She's a former Trump voter. It's not about politics. It's about making sure we're prosecuting those men who abused these young girls and who committed horrific crimes. I want justice here in the United States of America.
Okay, I want justice too. I think all of us want justice. But it's not just men that abuse these girls and traffic them. It's plenty of women as well. So this tape is of Haley Robinson. I believe she's talking to FBI agents, maybe members of the Department of Justice. It's very low quality, but I will tell you ahead of time what she says. She talks about the fact that she actually procured other girls to bring to Jeffrey Epstein because she got paid to do it. And she refers to herself as a Heidi Fleiss-like figure, the famous Madam Heidi Fleiss.
To be honest with you, I know, we'll be honest with you at this point, and we have been, you're in trouble for taking them there and making the arrangements and getting paid for taking them. Yeah. The fact that they, they were more the victim. Well, yeah, and that's why we want to know the girls who are under 18 at the time they went. Not more yeah, there you go. That's good, I hate to say it because it sounds bad, but now that I've been thinking about it, it kind of has been Heidi Fleiss. But like I said, whatever you guys need, I'll cooperate, whatever.
She said, I hate to say it because I know it sounds bad, but the more I think about it, I was. Now, here is a CBS News report where she talks about what she did. And again, she was a minor when she came into the Epstein network. But she got paid to bring other minors in so that they could be abused. This is unfortunately what Epstein's MO was. And this is oftentimes what a lot of abusers do. They turn their victims into abusers, and that's exactly what she became. Now, I want to be very clear, okay? Because I still consider her to be a victim. But I think that you can't talk about her situation without talking about the entirety of the situation. And I think that what Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie and some of these people are doing is they're attempting to exploit these people without being honest about the full story behind it. Now, I am far more forgiving for a person like Haley Robson because she was a minor. But there are adult women who present themselves as, oh, there was no audio? Did you guys no audio? What the? No, there should have been audio. Everything else that I played had audio. Tell me if you can hear it now.
I wanted a fresh start.
Haley Robson says she first met Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. She was an unsuspecting 16-year-old high schooler in West Palm Beach, Florida, when a classmate recruited her.
So you couldn't hear the last half. There was nothing different with the last half, but you can hear it now? Okay, you can hear it now. Okay.
Told the more you do, the more you make. I was told, you know, it would be possibly.
I understand why it's I forgot to share the tab.
I wanted a fresh start.
Haley Robson says she first met Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. She was an unsuspecting 16-year-old high schooler in West Palm Beach, Florida, when a classmate recruited her.
I was told the more you do, the more you make. I was told, you know, it would be possibly in your bra and underwear, but it would just be a massage.
She says the massage turned into something more when Epstein masturbated and fondled her. When he tried to take it further, she says she refused. That's when he offered to pay her $200 for every girl she brought to him.
Hurt people.
Robson says she went on to recruit 8 other girls.
I brought the people that I hung out with.
Did you think you were helping them?
Yeah. When I was 16, I felt like, hey, you know, I made money. Like, do you guys want to make money?
Therapist Randy Kogan has been working with Robson for the last 2 years.
The guilt will never go away. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about the other girls. I wanted to.
All right. So in the tape, those FBI agents that were speaking with her, I mean, they said that she herself was under investigation. Okay. Because even though she was a victim, she had committed criminal acts by recruiting other girls. Ultimately, they decided not to prosecute. And, you know, that's why she's here talking about this today. In no way do I mean to indicate that I, you know, discount her experience as a victim. Again, she was a child and she was victimized. And when children are put through trauma like that, their moral center becomes skewed. This is all too often what abusers do. They seek to turn their victims into abusers themselves, because then it makes it more complicated for them to come forward because, you're going to tell on me? Well, you know, guess what? You did exactly what I did. And so therefore now you may face criminal repercussions as a result of it. It's disgusting. It's terrible. Somebody like Haley, because she was a child, I can totally forgive. All right. But I do think that the entirety of the story needs to be told. What I don't forgive are the adult women who participated in Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking empire, who were abusers themselves, and who only after his death turned to try to capitalize on that and then presented themselves as if they were harmless and blameless the entire time. That is disgusting. Okay? And some of those people are the people that Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and others are propping up as if they are victims and that's all that they are. But it's just, it's not true. Okay. And it really, really is unsettling. Now, we also, I think I have one final thing that I wanted to show you guys. I mean, I actually had a ton more, but I just don't have time to get into it. Yeah, okay. We'll go ahead and call it there because there. Oh, you know what? There is this this story from James O'Keefe that just broke. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Okay, so another undercover investigation. This time, cattle ranchers and insiders expose how Tyson, JBS Cargill, and National Beef secretly control America's beef market. For anybody out there in the beef industry, I've been told this on many different occasions. They went to CattleCon in Nashville, Tennessee. In November, President Trump said cattle prices were falling while beef prices kept rising. There was an investigation into possible price manipulation. He directed the DOJ to investigate the meat packing companies who were driving up the prices through illicit collusion, price fixing, and price manipulation. Another problem that I've talked about on the show here before is the sort of draconian USDA regulations. If you are a small beef or beef producer, cattle rancher, and, you know, say you have one steer, one cow that you want to get butchered and dressed, you have to go through like a USDA authorized facility, and sometimes they only take so many cows, or there's like a backlog, or, you know, the cost is pretty crazy. Anyways, so they went to CattleCon and they spoke to a bunch of ranchers about how these major cattle producers are controlling the industry, and they are very clearly dominating the market, impacting pricing, and colluding to ensure that beef remains at a certain cost. And again, that's Tyson, JBS, Cargill, and National Beef. He said, James O'Keefe said, when you see higher prices at the grocery store, it's worth asking why. This may explain why your steak keeps costing more. They are buying like all the companies in the United States, so they don't have any competition. They can knock you out of the industry in 2 seconds. They closed all the markets. All the markets are theirs in Brazil and now in the U.S. Here, this is a 16-minute report. We're obviously not going to listen to the whole thing, but we will hear the preview.
Batista family is basically the Brazilian mafia.
They can knock you out of this industry in 2 seconds.
I do millions of dollars worth of business. I like to live a pretty good lifestyle, and in case this damn Rolex ever breaks, I want to be on.
Hey, there you go.
Scott acknowledges he has to go along with this if he wants to keep his Rolex. It's all about money.
Do I enjoy selling them to them? Not really, but I'm like anybody else. I gotta keep my head above.
Basically,
having enough money to buy Rolexes is not keeping your head above water. Now, you know, I am never going to tell people not to make money, all right? But we have a major problem in America with monopolized categories of business. You know, they may be able to get around. Oh, Lord, I just found all of my notes. Son of a bitch. Here it is. I see it now. All right. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. But I think that this is something that needs to be addressed in the United States. These large factory farming industries, big ag, big farm, big beef, they have effectively cut out of the market small producers, small ranchers. They have ultimately monopolized the industry. That's one of the reasons we have the problems with the over-herbicided foods, genetically modified corn and seeds. We need to wean ourselves off of this. And one of the ways that I think is good to start is to incentivize small farming, perhaps collective farming, co-ops, anything we can do to produce beef, chicken, pork at the community level. And anytime I can, I've got a couple of different farms in the area. I always try to buy beef from them, but it's also not super convenient because I have to go to them. Sometimes I can get things delivered, but then, of course, you got to pay a delivery fee. You have to be there at a certain time. You got to pick it up. I love non-homogenized raw milk. It's not super easy to get. I can only get it once every 2 weeks, but highly GMO food. So many different reasons that we need to get back to simpler agrarian methods so that we can eat whole natural foods rather than being forced to eat this factory farmed slop. It's disgusting. All right. Just one final message from my friends over here on Rumble, you guys, and that is going to be my good friends over here at 1775 Coffee. If you still have not yet tried 1775 Coffee, I want to give you an opportunity to do so because right now they do have some of those starter kits available, and in those starter kits, you're going to get their bold dark roast. It hits nice and hard, very robust. Their smooth medium roast, it goes down a treat, and their Vitality Mushroom Coffee that is going to give you clean energy and laser focus without the crash. It is all made from the highest quality beans available, single origin, small batch, toxin and mold free. You're also going to get those free goodies, which include the gold spoon clip, their strong frother, and a very high quality black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for just 99 bucks. This is for everyone who's watched 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder, is it truly worth it? I will tell you it is. The coffee is delicious, and to find out yourself, you can go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab one of those starter kits before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you very much, guys. You can go to that QR code on screen or head on over to the link 1775coffee.com/studio and have a great time doing so. All right, you guys, and make sure you eat kimchi. Check out Kimchi1 in the description of this video. I'm just going to remind you guys, and as Kim said, don't forget, they would rather that you call because they have people all lined up. You can call them at 888-383-5996. You can call them now. You can call them later if you see the show back then. If you call them, that's how you're going to get the up to 50% off and the free shipping and the free gift that comes along with it. Or you can just go to mybrightcore.com/redpill. Use that code redpill to get 25% off. But I would say give them a call so you can get the best possible price. All right, so final thank yous to our friends over here on Rumble and then on Red, on Pilled.net. Let's see. So eGrab4 says Abigail Spanberger is why we're leaving Virginia and headed back to the great state of Florida, Gulf Coast, once school is out in June. eGrab4, welcome home. We are so pleased to be able to have you back down here in Florida. You guys are probably going to have a much better time. The Gulf area is gorgeous. We haven't been there nearly enough, and I'm glad that you're coming back. Also, Trisha says, because we were talking about it in the chat, let me see. Let me pull this up. No, I need a Bambalance. Okay, here we go. I need a Bambalance. This is a good one.
This is the ambulance emergency line. Do you have an emergency? I need a ambulance. Who is this? Joe. Okay. So where do you need us? I'm in the motherfucking phone booth. Okay, what's the address there? Hold on. Okay, sir, did you call through 911? No. Okay, Joe, I need a location. What street are you on? I'm in the motherfucking phone booth at the stop and go. Yeah, I'm at the, that's it. I'm at the motherfucking stop and go. Wait a minute. What's the motherfucking street? Huffsmith, Corville, and something. At the motherfucking stop and go. Huffsmith, Corville, and what? Hold on. Yo. Uh-huh. Tab. Let me see. Coffee. Coffee. There you go. There you go. I'm in the motherfucking phone booth. Let me tell you what. I'm going down the motherfucking road, driving my car, minding my own goddamn business, and a motherfucking deer jumped out and hit my car. Okay, sir, are you injured? Let me tell you. I get out and pick the motherfucking deer up. I thought he's dead. I put the motherfucking deer in my back seat, and I'm driving down the motherfucking road and minding my own business. The motherfucker woke up and bit me in the back of my goddamn neck, and then bit me and then kicked the shit out of my car. I'm in the motherfucking phone booth. The deer bit me in the neck. A big motherfucking dog came up and bit me in the leg. I hit him with the motherfucking tire iron, and I stabbed him with my knife, so I got a hurt leg, and the motherfucking deer bit me in the neck. And the dog won't let me out of the motherfucking phone booth, because he wants the deer. I kiss the deer, me or the dog. Okay, sir, are you injured? Yeah, my motherfucking deer bit me in the neck. Hold on. Yeah, the motherfucking dog is biting me. Hold on. God damn it, get out of here. Hold on, the motherfucking dog is biting me.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's so funny. Okay. Thank you, Trisha. Also, Blue Demon 75 says, Zach, you're such a professional. You have really polished things up with your show. Always enjoy watching. Thank you. And today we had major technical issues, so I'm glad that I still delivered. I really appreciate you. Trisha also says, search just IDs. And then Teresa Pagano, Idzakowska translate website once you get there. So, yes, this would, okay, so let me pull this up. And maybe this is some information about Mariana Idzakowska. Okay, so, oh, God, how do I translate now? Yes, translate from Polish to English. There we go. Polish model in the leaked files of Jeffrey Epstein. Ooh, okay, so somebody had discovered her. Let me see where else she was. Jeffrey Epstein's files reveal the U.S. Department of Justice frequent correspondence with Maria Idzakowska. Documents do not indicate her involvement in any crimes. Well, she was obviously in the DEA investigation. The fact that her name was not hidden means the U.S. government did not recognize her as a victim. The documents do not indicate any inappropriate actions. Documents show that they also often talked via Skype. She was 28 to 29 at the time. Polish model traveled to New York at Epstein's expense and apparently visited his private island in the Caribbean. I just returned to the island. I had a wonderful day, she wrote to Epstein, adding that she and the girls had attractions such as skydiving and diving. It's a pity you weren't there and couldn't take part in it. In July of 2014, Epstein instructed the manager of his Palm Beach property, Yanis Banasiak, to take care of her in the event of a late flight from to St. Thomas. Documents disclosed by the U.S. Department of Justice that Epstein's relationship with the Polish model was personal. In one of Idzakowska's emails, she writes that Epstein dreamed of her. Was I naked? He asked. She replied that he was dressed, but he looked different. Talks also concerned the education she should undertake and the results of her tests in English. One of the emails contains a photo of a woman from Bill Gates. However, in the photo, the face was hidden by investigators. It's not clear if it was Idzakowska or another person. Mariana's name previously appeared in correspondence from Epstein that was revealed by Congress in April. Documents included an email from April 12th regarding disasters in Smolensk. Epstein sent an article to the Polish model questioning conspiracy theories in the matter. Polish radio failed to establish contact with Mrs. Idzakowska, and questions about the circumstances and context of Epstein's messages left on her social media accounts remain unanswered, and her Instagram no longer exists. Yep. She probably doesn't want anybody asking too many questions. All right, Petty429, thank you, sir. Hashtag Red Pill Private Jet Club. Challenge, let's fly. And then Kenzie Fam says, for rolling on without notes, just like our favorite president does. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. eGrab4 says, I lived in Jacksonville for 6 years. Hated it. Then moved to Destin, Niceville, where I connected with and married my husband. We're headed back to that area. It is gorgeous. Good stuff, man. Congrats again. Sabrado says, your show was really good today. You always overcome. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you, Sabrina. Really appreciate you. All right, now heading on over to Pilled. Dixie dropped a can. Thank you for that. Moon Baby says, thank you for the news, Zach. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cans. The Steel Monkey says, Zach, I do not want to hurt your feelings, but do you know that Gavin Newsom is a liar, right? And he's a psychopath. Of course I do. What would ever seem to tell you or indicate to you that I am not aware of Gavin Newsom's psychopathy or his status as a liar? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and I said this the other night too. I've been doing this for a long time, you guys. I've been doing shows for 8 years, almost every day. So forgive me if I don't feel the need to preface everything I say with a disclaimer about everything I've already said. So no, you don't hurt my feelings, because of course I know that Gavin Newsom is a liar and a psychopath. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie and another cookie. He says, New York blue slip Dem senators, Zach. Yes, in order to get things passed through, you got to have the Senate approval. And if there's one Democrat, then they won't allow for any nominations. Now, that is for the U.S. attorneys, but I don't know if that would count for the appeals court as well. However, we'll see what President Trump does. Filter Dog says Thomas Massie is to sit on the Democrat side of the aisle during Trump's State of the Union to show bipartisan unity on the Epstein files. Gay? No Thanks Joe says they don't want to solve anything with handouts because if it were solved, their laundering scam would be discontinued and their pockets would go empty as well. God bless, be safe, Lisa and Zach. Yes, of course, nothing will ever be fixed when they can get more money. They're just going to continue to try to grift. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Sean Joe, thank you for shades as well. Intolerant Leftists says foreign arrests for corruption in office, not abuse, and their laws are different and they require less evidence and proof for arrests. You are correct. That's why we're seeing so many arrests taking place in these European bureaucrats. Sean Joe, thank you for 3 cookies. And there we go. All right, you guys, we're done. I'm going to call it here. Don't forget to check out. Oh, I actually need to say thank you to Simi for the donation on Ko-Fi. For whatever reason, it didn't come through yesterday, but she says, sorry if I messed up on the donation app, Zach. I love your show. If all goes well, I will just donate here. So yes, Cheryl, thank you for the $15 over on Ko-Fi. I really do appreciate it. All right, you guys. Carrie, she says, long-time watcher, first-time commenting. It's been a pleasure watching you over the past 8 years. Thank you for finally saying hello. I hope that we'll see you in the chat, and I hope that everybody will please give her a warm welcome. All right, you guys, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m., right here, another episode of Red Pill News, and I'm going to give some notes to the people at Rumble, and I think I'll just go back to doing it how I normally did it so that I don't have to worry about things disappearing on me. But otherwise, check out the final sponsors of the show, my friends over at TamarakGarden.com. Use the code RP78 to save on their homeopathic remedies that are produced in America by an American family using products that are collected and sourced by themselves, all natural products. Wonderful place. My friends over at onenessdrops.com/redpill78. When you use that code, you'll get 15% off their chlorine dioxide water purification kits, their DMSO, their mullein extract, or their soursop extract tincture, everything they offer. You can get a great deal there. Mike Lindell over at mypillow.com. When you use code RP78, you'll get up to 80% off of Mike's amazing American-made products. You're also going to support his run for governor of Minnesota. My friend Jordan over at ConsciousStrength.net. Use code RP78 to save 10% off of all of his American products, including his methylene blue, which is a nootropic that I use on a daily basis. And, of course, RNC Store, Richardson Nutrition Center, for their B17 Laetrile products. When you use code RP78, you'll get 10% off. And finally, my good friend Jessica over at goallgood.com. Use code REDPILL78 or RP78 to save on all of her American-made tallow beauty products. All of these links are in the description below. Good luck, God bless, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace. Oh, and thank you to Carrie. Carrie, thank you for the $10 with a Pepe. I appreciate you. Here come the gold pills over on Pilled. I almost said blue pill earlier instead of saying red pills in talking about Pilled. But there you go. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. State of the Union over on Badlands tonight. Do you guys hear the music? How about now? Huh. That's weird. No music. Oh, you hear music now. Okay, cool. That's so weird.